Boom. How's everyone doing? I was gonna say sunny Monday, but it's a weird weather Monday. Um, Outside, the weather has been sunny. It's been the opposite of sunny. It's been basically everything. So it's um, it's odd out here in terms of weather, but it's not too bad of a Monday overall. I I got about 3 hours of sleep, so I mean it's okay, but that's just how I roll. How is everyone else doing? And what's everyone got to drink here? I am rocking a Coke at the moment because I can just note here. I started out the day with I started out the evening. My wife and I had a very nice dinner, and I went and made mojitos. And that's because so we had uh, and I can entirely agree with this sentiment. 100%. But so my wife and I have a garden, and when we were looking at plants to put in the garden, I specifically I spotted mojito mint is literally what they called it, and I thought that we're gonna do. So I put that in the garden, and it's growing great. It's taking off. It's one of the few things that in my garden is actually doing spectacular. I have not been able to kill it yet, so I thought we're going to have mojitos. So I might have poured that a little bit rich, but so I've got a Coke now just so that I can catch up on all of that. So uh, hopefully everyone's having a good day. I see mojito mint sounds really good. It's awesome. You planted in a pot, right? No, it's planted. It's planted in my garden. Um, if it, I can guarantee it can't beat the weeds in there. So, and if it does, if I end up with an entire garden full of mint and have to drink mojitos, I will be okay with that. Um, so I actually have to solarize that little. I've got a raised garden, and so um, I got to solarize it at some point. So because it's just it's full of weeds. It's full of really terrible weeds there. Um, okay, waiting for a verdict. He's a nice break here. Sounds very nice for you and Mrs. Runkle. Ooh, I'm curious about the verdict. Uh, so I see. I just got a coffee. That's good. Might escape. Mints are very vigorous. Well, fair enough. Um, my garden is overgrown with radish right now. I love radishes. Uh, I've got carrots in there. I've got tomatoes. I've got some spicy peppers. So we'll see how it does. I suspect that winter is going to kill it, but we'll see. Um, we'll see. Uh, blueberry wine. That's a good one. There was a directed verdict today. I saw that. I haven't actually watched it, so maybe we can pull that up and watch that together because that is impressive. Was that on Law and Crime, the directed verdict? Because that's kind of epic. There, you don't get a whole lot of directed verdicts on anything, so I'm just trying to see if we can find that here. We might have to track it down. All right. So if someone's got a link handy for that, shoot it my way, and we will maybe go over that one because that one was just new. I've been doing work on it and so forth. Yes, I see Nicholas Staro's got a video on it. I'll have to try to catch that up or catch up on that. But yeah, Nicholas covered it, so I don't want to like replay Nicholas's video. So we'll have to see it. What's a directed verdict? In this case, it is when the prosecution is finished their case, and the defense just says, you need to throw this out. That's it. And the court agrees and says this doesn't even go to the jury. It just goes straight to the trash, which is sometimes where it belongs. So that is that's a good thing. I see somebody saying that they tagged me on Twitter. So I'm going to try to track that down here. Other things, we've got some developments in the Rust trial. We've got some developments in the Jessica Simpson / Yaniv chaos. So that's got some interesting developments on it. We can talk about a bunch of things. I also, I guess, should talk about. So I did a video that you might be here to, because of. I did a video reviewing the toxic gossip train, which is still stuck in my freaking head. That person is a terrible human being, but regardless, they can write a decent song. So that song is just absolutely stuck in my head. And, but I have done some more digging into it, and that is a hell of a tale. I'm going to have to do a follow-up story just talking a little bit about what kind of charges could result, because that one is I very much think that there could be some charges on that one. I see somebody saying, "Dear Lord, I thought we were done with Yaniv." No, Yaniv keeps going, but Yaniv actually might be getting shut down. That's the fun thing on this one, is that there's some people looking to push back on Yaniv, and that actually may be a big change. So we'll have to see on that, because I keep hoping that somebody's going to nail Yaniv to the wall right on sort of the what do you call it? Blank on the word. Vexatious litigant. All right. All right. So let me just. So there's a story that a bunch of you have sent me as well that I just am going to start out with here. Sorry, I'm fielding Twitter messages, so if I'm seeing them a little distracted. Somebody's saying, "Who the hell is Yaniv?" So Jessica Yaniv, who I think is now going by Jessica Simpson, is a person known for a bunch of BS lawsuits. She's a trans woman, and at the time of a bunch of these lawsuits, still had testicles, which is important to this case because Jessica went to a bunch of primarily run by Muslim women, basically. And so they were there. She went in and she was asking that they wax her testicles. And the salons refused. And so then she brought a human rights complaint. And the human rights board threw that out on the basis of go F yourself. Particularly, they also found that she was involved, that she was racist in her application of this. They found that that part of the reason why she was targeting the particular salons she targeted was out of racist motivation. So she is a awful, awful person. There's a lot of people who target her because she's trans, but the trans community does not recognize her. They think that she is a terrible person. Her mom is also a terrible person. She's had various, charges and so forth. So, yeah, Yaniv is just terrible. So, anyway, she is locked in some further litigation We can recap that and also talk about the latest development. But one that lots of people have wanted me to talk about because it's kind of a weird story. It's a heartwarming story and a tragic story, all sort of mixed together. And that is this one. So, Canadian man fired from job after saving baby moose from bear. I couldn't just leave her. So basically, the story on this one is that this guy was out doing work. He works for a gas company called AFD Petroleum, who is really getting a bad reputation out of this one because it's really a bad look. And so he sees this calf moose, like a baby moose, who is trying to escape a black bear. This black bear is stalking this moose. It wants to eat the moose because a full-grown moose can quite probably take a bear. If you think of moose as cute and cuddly, moose are scary MFs, and moose will mess with you just because you exist. It's like, hey, you live, and therefore I would like to stop you from doing that. So here is this baby moose. Is this not the cutest thing? Because this baby moose was trying to get into his car. And so eventually he was like, screw this. I'm not letting this moose calf get killed by this bear. So he opens up the cab of his truck and in climbs this moose. And is this not the cutest thing? Is this not delightful? I would love to have a picture like this because I can tell you, I'm going to live my entire life. And I've had a pretty good life. I've gotten to do a lot of things that I never thought I'd be able to do. I've been able to ride a tank. I've been able to travel. I've been able to all this stuff. But I am never going to get to reach out and give a baby moose scritches. It's just not going to be in my life. That is not going to be in the trajectory of my life. And look at this thing. Isn't this the cutest? Isn't this the cutest? Now, it's going to grow up. And when it grows up, it is going to be a straight-up murder machine. This thing is going to... there's no way you want to get into a fight with a moose. It'll beat a bear. It'll beat a cougar. It'll beat a Civic, like a Honda Civic. It'll just, it'll go to town. So, he goes and he picks up this moose. Look at this. The dude gets a picture of him with this baby moose. You know how many baby moose selfies I'm going to get in my life? 0 baby moose selfies. 0. So, he then takes this moose off and delivers it to a shelter. He names the moose Misty, which I don't know, but he takes it off to a shelter. Now, the oil company, AFD Quality Fuels and Lubricants, condemned his decision. They fired him for it, in fact, and they also bashed him online. They said, this guy is a bad dude because he saved this moose and he should have waited and let conservation do it. He should have let conservation save the baby moose. And I'm thinking, this baby moose is being stalked by a black bear. The black bear isn't sitting here going, oh, he's called conservation. We're just going to have to chill and wait for conservation to get here because it wouldn't be fair to eat the moose before the conservation officer gets here in like 6 to 8 hours. The other thing is, you know what the conservation officer is going to say? And I mean, this is just cynical. You know what the conservation officer is going to say? They're going to say, yeah, you know what happens in nature? Sometimes bears eat moose. And it's a real bad day for the baby moose, but it's a really great day for the bear. So, that's just the thing, is that every time in nature, one animal has a bad day, another animal has a great day. That's just how nature goes. So, but that moose is still super cute. This guy was breaking the law in doing it. There's all sorts of laws that say you can't mess with wildlife, etc. But I can see why he would. And from the perspective of the PR move, I feel like you just maybe don't fire this guy. So, yeah, it's lots of people. Well, now the legal question lots of people had, because I should actually cover the legal question. And some people are saying some animals will be orphaned if a human touches them. I can tell you, this moose at this time in the year, it's July. This moose can handle itself most of the time. It might not be able to take out a bear, but this is a moose that is old enough to go and do moose business without supervision from Mama Moose. So, yeah, this moose it's okay to be a moose at this stage. But yeah, I think firing this guy was the wrong call, because I think that that's going to be unpopular. And I see somebody saying that they tagged me in it in Twitter. So, what is it? I'm just going to see if I can see that, because I've got a ton of different notifications and so forth. But so I'm just trying to see if I can find that in my notifications, because they were saying that the company responded. All right, I do see a tag here. Let's see. I'm just trying to track down the. So there's AFD Petroleum Limited. Let's see. So people saying that they think he kidnapped the baby moose. I think this is a PR disaster in the making, but we'll see. I mean, if he kidnapped the moose, then he'll get charged. But if he didn't kidnap the moose, if he was rescuing it from a bear, and he says the bear was like 50 yards away. So, yeah, maybe I'll... so... I'm just going to send them a message. All right, maybe we'll see on that one. So, all right. Now the question people had is, can he get fired? And the answer is yes. They can fire you for all sorts of things, right? So long as they're not firing you for reasons that are like discriminatory or anything else. But yeah, they can fire him for all sorts of reasons. And they had a policy not to mess with wildlife. It is what it is. He made his calls, and I don't know if I would have made a different call on that one. I see, can AFD rehire the guy? I don't think they're going to. So I don't think that they are. I don't think that they're going to. So I see, how do you kidnap a moose? It's not a person. I mean, we're talking about a metaphor here as opposed to like strictly the crime of kidnapping. But yeah. All right. Now I'm going to do a swoop, and then we'll cover some memberships here, and then we will get to our next story here. All right. 1 second. Let me find our swoop. I also just want to note, Potter's having a rough day today. Potter got too enthusiastic. Remember how Potter's the big one there, the one that's sort of sitting there looking at the screen. He got too enthusiastic. He was playing with my in-law's dog, and he strained his leg. So right now he's walking around with a bit of a limp. We hope he's going to get better, but he is having a rough. He's having a rough day. So, just we're worried about Potter there. We're concerned. All right, so let's cover some memberships here. Celebrial82, thank you for the gifted membership. Pants, thank you for 5 gifted memberships. Summer Butterfly, good evening, Runkle and chat. Thank you for the member chat there. Brentwood Chic, thank you for 10 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Lynn Britton, y'all make my nights much more bearable. Cancer sucks. Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn. I hope you fight that off. And there have been way too many tragedies lately. So we're all cheering for you. I see was Potter the one who had the broken leg months ago. He had surgery on his leg. Yeah, so he is still a little sore. And I mean, it's tough when you're a dog, right? You don't understand the notion of like chill out. So yeah, he's not good at that. Rhineman YYC, thank you for 10 gifted memberships. Draco Emmy, thank you for 5 gifted memberships. Jill Higgins, thank you for 5 gifted memberships. Becky, thank you for the new membership here. And we also have this, hey, the verdict is out. You need to learn to play the ukulele. Much appreciated. And David Thomas, some humble support from me. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. So it is, it's a rough time. We hope Potter's going to get a little, get better there. Jenna Rose, I actually did a video on this. Judge granted an emoji as a contractually binding agreement. This one is actually not super new law. I already did a video on it, but I can talk about it a little bit more. What happened in that case was that a guy, farmer, had a regular dealing with this particular grain buying company. And so every so often the grain buying company they'd say, hey, we want to buy grains on sort of a futures basis. And what I mean by a futures basis is that at the start of the year, they would arrange to make a purchase for around harvest time at a particular price. So in this case, it was for about like $15. I forget what the exact amount per bushel. So so they make that agreement to buy, wasn't soybeans, it was flax. They wanted to buy flax. And in the past, their dealings, they would send over a contract once they'd sort of worked out what the deal would be. And the guy would respond with okay, or yep, or sure, or some really simple response, right? And so in this case, they sent the contract over and the guy responded with a thumbs up emoji. And because they had that lengthy history of those dealings, the other side was like, yeah, we've got a contract going. Great. So come November, when they're supposed to be delivering the flax, there's no flax. The guy doesn't deliver any flax. And so he's sitting there going, where's my flax? And they say, oh, we're not giving you any flax. We don't actually have a deal. You've got to buy your flax on the open market, because we're selling ours on the open market, because guess what happened to the market price? Well, it tripled. The market price basically tripled. So, as a result of that, you can see why they would want to back out of the deal, right? Because at that point, if they can back out of the deal, then they are getting a huge benefit, right? But you think that if they didn't, like if the price went down, they still would have wanted to have that to sell the flax to them. So the judge basically said, listen, you guys have been having regular dealings. On each of these dealings, you have agreed with a sort of simple agreement statement. And everybody knows that a thumbs up can mean sort of a, an agreement, an acknowledgement, right? That's kind of understood. And hey, we got Rob in the chat. Hey, Rob. So, yeah, in that case, the net result of that was that the court said you don't get to back out of your agreement just because you sent a thumbs up. You're on the hook. And so that ended up costing them about $80,000, which is the amount of money they would have made off the other way. So, yeah. Basically, that win put the buyer of the flax to where they would have been if the deal had been upheld, and also put the seller of the flax to where they would have been had the deal been upheld. So that's about it. So that is that's sort of good news there. All right. So I said I wanted to cover a bit more of the Yaniv story. So here is the background on this. Jessica Yaniv, as I mentioned, has a lengthy history of going after the waxing salons, but on this occasion is not going after a waxing salon. Jessica Yaniv has now got this dog that she claims is a service dog. There is no registration for this dog as a service dog. It's just a dog that she claims is a service dog. She then goes and she says that she's having a diabetic, like a diabetic moment. And so she says that she is going off to, that she goes to this restaurant, and it's a, oh, I'm being told I got to swoop. Swoop. Yes. That is the wrong swoop, but it's a good swoop anyway. So she then goes off and goes to this kebab restaurant. And she says that she sends her mom in to the kebab restaurant. And which, I mean, you got to think, if you are struggling, like you're low on sugar, kebab is a weird thing to get, right? Especially because I looked around and I looked around that area on like Google Street View. You can see that there is that there's like a convenience store right there. So I figured if I needed sugar right away, going into the convenience store and getting like a can of Coke or some candies or something is a better way to get sugar right now. But nope, they go to the kebab place. And she says that the kebab place refuses her service on the basis that we are Muslims, we are clean, we are clean people. And so she says that they said that she's dirty as a result. This to me is a complete BS lawsuit. Complete BS lawsuit. But she's bringing it anyway, and she's got a history of bringing lawsuits that get tossed because it really seems like her MO is basically to cobble these crappy lawsuits together and then, bring them against. It seems like they get brought against a lot of Muslims. Just saying. So there have been some updates in this court proceeding. So one of the updates here is this. And she brought an application, and we'll enlarge. So she is applying for extra security in the courtroom. She wants more security in the courtroom for their August 4th appearance. And the basis for this is that she says there have been a group of anti-LGBTQ2 SIA plus activists that have been following me to all of my court proceedings and taking photos of me within the courthouse. Now, it is true. There are people who really dislike Jessica and follow her to her court proceedings and take pictures of her, which, we have open courts. You're allowed to do that. In addition, assaults have transpired outside of the courthouse due to harassing conduct. That is also true. Assaults have transpired outside of the courthouse. What Yaniv is leaving out is that Jessica and her mom are the people who've been alleged to be the instigators of those. So, yeah, assault. She's very careful to not say who was alleged to have committed the assaults here. But yeah, I'm expecting a surge of anti-LGBTQ2. She doesn't even use the same acronym twice. She actually uses a different acronym. And I see somebody saying, are service animals registered in Canada? They are in British Columbia, where she lives. So she uses the acronym differently twice, which, yeah. And pro-Muslim supporters, that's an interesting thing to be afraid of. To be there, and I'm concerned for my safety and the safety of my service dog. And the court orders that this application is denied, which is basically you go to hell. So I'm just going to say, let's talk about what the courthouse deals with on every average day. Every random day at the courthouse, they'll have people who are charged with murder. They will have people who are charged with serious robberies. They will have people who are charged with SA and DV and all the acronyms that YouTube doesn't want me to spell out. They will have all of this stuff. They'll have family disputes where people have threatened to kill each other and all of this, right? Really serious business. And Yaniv is like, I'm afraid to, I'm afraid to be there. So the court is just like, you ain't special, right? You are not special. So, yeah. Yeah, and I see the A&W has effectively free packets of honey. Yeah. If she walked into the convenience store and there were a couple of them right nearby, she could have just walked in and bought a bag of candy. Like, it's not that hard. So, yeah. I see, yeah, they'll have gang members up on charges. Absolutely. It'll be all sorts of things. The court is like, you ain't special here. We're not. And the court is going to do their own security. The court will do security dynamically. And what I mean by that is that if they have something where it looks like it's getting to be a tense situation, like let's say you've got somebody, they're charged with, I don't know, slashing someone's tires, right? So it's not the sort of charge that normally you think of as a big worry. But in the courtroom, it turns out there's a whole bunch of gang members who are there because turns out the allegation is he slashed a gang member's tires. Well, what you'll get is they'll just call a bunch of sheriffs into that courtroom. It's not super hard. This is not rocket surgery. So, yeah. So that is one of the fun steps in this. Let's bring up another one because this keeps going. So, there we go. So makes another application. Application to a registrar. And so she is asking for first an interpreter for all proceedings, and for all proceedings to take place over MS Teams. She doesn't want to have to actually go to the courthouse. Why doesn't she want to go to the courthouse? Because people are going to take pictures of her. But so she says, and I see Embiggen. She says the applicant is profoundly deaf, which is really interesting because there's a whole lot of video of her like talking to random people and a whole lot of other court proceedings where she just doesn't seem to require any interpretation. But here she's saying that she is profoundly deaf and requires English to English cart interpretation services. The applicant has a service dog for severe type 1 diabetes, hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia. Can you have both? Can you have both hypo and hyperglycemia? Is that a thing that happens? Like, I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is really offensive to me because I have a friend with POTS, and yeah. anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and needs access to food/drink during proceedings to maintain stability. Applicant may be required to address diabetic issues, which is easier to be done from home office over MS Teams. And the court basically says, sit down. The application to appear by MS Teams is denied at this time as no court appearances are currently scheduled. Like, you want to appear by MS Teams for which application? Which we haven't scheduled anything. They also say that you don't need to apply for interpreter services. You just let us know you want one. We're not making a court order for an interpreter. We'll just do it, right? Like, you don't need to do this. So, so far she's not doing fantastic on this, but that's not the fun part. The fun part is what happens after all of that, because previously she'd been facing people who their response to this was basically to either roll over, or in some cases they would defend themselves. So she was up against she was self-representing, but they were also self-representing. That has changed. This person has a lawyer, and I already really like this lawyer. So June 12th, here are the responses here. Let's go through all of this. So A, the claimant has pled a frivolous claim against a business owner that had nothing to do with the incident. The employee simply told Ms. Yaniv the privately owned business does not allow pets inside. B, the claimant's dog is not a service dog. This is a clear misrepresentation, nor were certification papers ever presented. Misrepresentation of a service dog is an offense to the Guide and Service Dog Act. Whoops. C, the claimant has continued to harass the restaurant owner and through social media by posting racist, offensive comments. This is a pattern of the claimant for which special punitive damages are sought. Keep in mind that as we, in the previous case, they found that she had engaged in racist behavior. And so this is fitting with that. The respondent in counterclaim is seeking punitive, exemplary, aggravated, and general damages to the small business's reputation, goodwill, and future damages for the continued harassment. Basically, you're screwing with our business and you're doing so in a racist way. We are coming after you. E, the claimant was never denied service. The claimant has caused the owners of the small business significant distress, aggravation, current and future, and having to deal with a baseless claim. So that is the first part of all of that. We'll just bring up the second, because unfortunately I don't have it in sort of convenient PDF form. I've got it in images, which is annoying. So this feels like the beginning of the find out half of the F around and find out equation. So the claimant has a long-standing history of accusing small businesses of denying her service. This is easily established basically on previous court records, right? The claimant has been found guilty of independent actionable wrong on numerous occasions for similar conduct, resulting in significant distress, having to defend such vague, fraudulent, and vexatious claims. Now, I don't know that guilty is the right term here. I don't know that that is the right way to put it, but it is what it is. The claimant continues to harass the business by posting comments on her Twitter and from Facebook about the business and blatantly calling the business racist from various fake accounts. Simply put, the claimant is filing these types of civil claims for quick cash and social media notoriety. So, yeah, they're asking for not just dismissal of the suit, because they could just say, hey, we want this thrown out. But they're asking for dismissal of the suit and compensation for harassment of individual in business in the amount of $15,000, punitive damages and special damages in the amount of $10,000, future aggravation to business reputation, including general and exemplary damages against the claimant in the amount of $10,000, for a total of $35,000 plus $206 in filing fees, So yeah, they're asking for some serious find out on this whole F around and find out scale. And this is a good note here. She also got arrested a few years ago for flashing tasers on a stream. Yes, she did. And I think she got a conditional discharge for that. And is that the one who's a lawyer wannabe? Somebody said. And yes, she said law schools are inquiring. I don't believe that law schools are inquiring because I don't believe she has any reasonable prospect of becoming a lawyer. Based on the previous findings of the court, I think that her likelihood of that is very poor. So, yeah, I am really looking forward to seeing what happens on this one because I am hoping that she gets properly hammered on this one. They're inquiring about using her case in textbooks, maybe. But yeah, she's not going to pass character and fitness. She's that's a problem there. Somebody says flashing tasers. So as I recall, I think she did an interview with Blair White. So Blair White is a trans activist, and Blair White, she's controversial. We'll just put it that way. She's pretty controversial. But at one point, her and Blair White were not getting along, from what I understand on this stream. So she pulls out a stun gun, not a taser. She pulls out a stun gun and zaps it on the screen. And the result of that is that she ends up getting charged. It's yeah, that was a very dumb move. Like that is just that's just crazy. So, what is a conditional discharge? A conditional discharge is an interesting sentence that is available in Canada. So the way what this means is that you've been found guilty of an offense, whether that's because you pled guilty or you have or you've been found guilty at a trial. But note that there is actually a step between being found guilty and being convicted. This is a really interesting trivia question. So maybe I'll ask a trivia question. If I start teaching law students again, I will ask a trivia question at some point, and it'll be, is it possible to be found guilty of an offense without being convicted of the offense? So the answer to that is yes, because a conditional discharge is, instead of being convicted, they can discharge you either absolutely, which means that there's no conditions to it, or conditionally. And a conditional discharge means that you get put on probation for a period. And if you complete your probation, then eventually it just vanishes off of your record. So a conditional discharge is a way that you can avoid getting a criminal record, notwithstanding the fact that the court finds that you did a thing. Right? So, let's say you are 87, right? And you have lived a very boring life, right? You've never been charged with an offense. You've never been convicted of an offense. You've never been anything. You've just lived a very sort of normal, ordinary life. And then something happens, like your kid steals all your money, which happens sometimes when you're 87. People end up being the victim of elder abuse and so forth. And so they're hungry and they steal, they steal a can of soup because they're hungry. Well, in that case, and I don't mean it in like an insulting way. I just mean like you're not somebody who's known to the court. So, basically at that point, the court might say, listen, sure, you committed a crime by stealing this soup. Like that is a crime. But we don't think that this person is somebody who needs a criminal record, right? We don't need a criminal record here. So we'll do a conditional discharge, right? So that's that's sort of what it's there for. There's lots of people who get like a first offense, and there's no reason to just hammer them to the wall. So I actually think this is a great thing. I think it's fantastic to have a system where you've got some forgiveness built into the system, right? Because not everything needs to be treated the same way. If you've got somebody who has been a criminal menace, then okay. But if you've got somebody who's just all they do, like it's just one mistake, then maybe we can just say, hey, we're just going to cut this person some slack. Don't do it again. And the Crown prosecutors will know that you've had a conditional discharge. So if they see that you've had like 6 or 7, they can decide that, okay, we're not gonna, we're not gonna allow another one. But yeah, so that's what a conditional discharge is. But it's not always available. It depends on circumstances, but it is there. Right? First offense goes behind a wall. Second offense, wall comes down. Sometimes you can get more than one conditional discharge. All right, I'm going to swoop, read some super chats, and then swoop again. For the Potter treat fund, I will make sure Potter gets a treat because Potter is a good dog. Love the dog. He's just he's having a rough time. And Jan, Potter, give him some get well scritchies from me. So Potter does not normally, Potter normally doesn't like being in the bed with me and Mrs. Runkle, or just me, because sometimes I'll have a nap and Potter, he'll be in the bed and I'll get in the bed and he'll be like, screw you, I'm leaving. That's just how Potter rolls, right? He's a cute dog, but that is how he rolls. So today I went down for to have a nap, and Potter was in the bed, and I thought, oh, he's gonna get up and he's gonna move. So I got in, and he didn't get up and leave. Instead, he just sort of sidled up and sort of curled up next to me, which he never does. Like, this is something that he never does. So Potter's having a rough time. He is. We feel for Potter, but hopefully he gets better soon. Because, poor pup is basically what it comes down to. That's just the long and short of it. So let's see. Jill Higgins, thank you for 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Robin Shermantine, did you see the Captain Corey's channel parody? Oh, I did not see that, and that does not make me happy. Of all the things to parody, that's a crappy thing. Gwendolyn SS. So I guess I'll have to track that down and see what's going on. Gwendolyn SS saying, if sugar is that low, you need sugar right away. Yep, absolutely. And I see a good question here. Can the courts block her from filing new claims? So I talked about the possibility that Yaniv could be declared vexatious. What does vexatious mean? Well, if you get a declaration of being a vexatious litigant, what that means is that the court is basically putting you on special supervision, which means that if you want to bring a case, like you want to sue somebody, you don't just get to sue them. Like right now, like let's say I wanted to sue whoever, right? I wanted to sue my neighbor. I could just go and file a lawsuit, and then I just serve it on the neighbor, and now the neighbor is involved in the litigation, right? Whereas if I have been declared vexatious, then I can't just file that lawsuit. Instead, what I have to do is I have to go to court and ask the court for permission to file the lawsuit. I actually have to bring an application on my own to say, can I sue this person? And the court's going to read through it, and they might say, hey, listen, this is actually a good lawsuit. So we're going to let that go. But they might say, hey, this is your usual garbage and it's pretty crap, so you don't get to file anything. We are striking this lawsuit before the other person even has to be involved in it. It is fantastic on that on that regard. So yeah. So at Amber, I heard it on, I believe, Tug's Live today, but I didn't catch it all. He said straight up that one of Amber Heard's people was pretending to be Captain Corey today. If somebody can find me the details on that, because that seems like a time to just go ham as much as we can. So let me know if you can send me links on that. I see. So it's like training wheels for lawsuits. I think less than training wheels. It's more like being on a leash is really what it comes down to. Wait, I thought vexatious was good. No, vexatious is bad. Vexatious basically means you are annoying. You are an annoyance to the court. We hate you. So, yeah. And I see Tug took the video down. Yeah, he does that. Tug's got a lot of people who just hate report him, so he takes the videos down so that then they don't get mass flagged. Chase P, is that a Secret Labs chair? Any good? Do not buy a Secret Labs chair. They are really crappy. And so this chair, I keep throwing new parts into it because it was an expensive chair. I've replaced the seat twice. I've replaced the arm things all like repeatedly. This arm is like new as of like 3 or 4 months ago, and it's already starting to fall apart. So do not get a Secret Labs chair. They are garbage. They so they keep saying that it's because I'm sitting in it wrong. I don't know how I'm supposed to sit. Like, I just don't understand how that's supposed to work. But yeah, it just makes no, like, these are not good chairs. I will never get another Secret Labs chair. So they're not a good chair. Somebody says, why not buy a new chair? Because chairs are expensive. This chair is stupid expensive. So, yeah. And we've got my favorite favorite parody account here, Secret Labs customer support. Slander, the chair is fine. You are just, say it with me, sitting wrong. Yeah. I'm going to replace this chair at some point. Ryanman YYC, 3 days smoke free today. Feels like it'll stick this time. Awesome. That is fantastic news. So that is, good to know. I love my Secret Lab chair. I've had it for 3 years with no problems. This one is just, this one just falls apart. It is just, I can't throw parts into it fast enough. Kathy, thank you for the YouTube membership. Much appreciated. And I see Sin for the new chair. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. All right, let's do another swoop and have another look at another story there. I did not admit I don't know how to sit correctly. I just don't. I reject the notion that there's a correct way to sit. You buy these chairs in part because it's like, I got a bad back. I need a chair that's going to be good for it. Yeah. Like a Cocobolo desk. I should actually clear off my desk so it doesn't look like such of a disaster, but I should take pictures of this desk. This desk cost me about $50. It is made with an IKEA table surface and 2 IKEA drawer sets, and it works really well. I like this thing. So I quite like this one. So I love the internal chair titles at work. The premium chair says chair for the heavy person, obese, big. Nice. I want to get a good chair, but yeah. All right. So let's do a swoop here. Oh, and some people were asking, did I get a copyright strike for some people were asking if I got a copyright strike for the video review of Toxic Gossip Train. I keep wanting to say Toxic Garbage Train because I feel like that's where we're at, but No, I haven't actually, which is interesting. Maybe they've knocked that. Maybe they've knocked that off. Colleen, is it Ballinger? How is that supposed to be pronounced? I don't know. I could probably find out by watching her videos, but I don't want to watch her videos. I hated the one I saw a lot, so I imagine I'm going to hate more of them more. So, all right, yeah, no, yeah, I haven't gotten a copyright claim yet, so that doesn't mean I won't. But Ballinger, okay, um, so yeah, they're not striking; they're claiming ad revenue. I haven't had that yet, so this is so we'll see. I mean, there's still time, but yeah, we'll just have to have a look. All right. Oh, somebody's saying, did the neti pot get done and sent? That got sent. I don't know what the response is. I don't think I'll ever get a response, so I just don't know. So we'll have to see. Oh, somebody says, time to make a toxic garbage train on Midjourney. I did make a toxic garbage train on Midjourney. Let me find the toxic garbage train on Midjourney, because that I think was a little fun. Here, I can pull up a toxic garbage train. I have a lot of fun on Midjourney. I know some people are against it because it's AI generation, but this is really not competing with an artist, because I can tell you that I would not hire an artist to screw around with. Here's a random sentence that just popped into my head, and please draw it. I don't know who's got the money to to hire a random artist for everything that pops into their head, but it's not me. So what is it? So that was a toxic garbage train. So I think that's fitting. I think that's fitting there. Um, and I see support the Hollywood labor action. All you have to do is cancel a streaming service. I can't cancel a streaming service. I don't subscribe to any. So yeah, I just can't. I can't do it. So I'm not able. So I see the artists I've seen have been more pissed that they used their artwork to train the machines on without crediting them or paying them for it. I mean, the thing is that's what artists do too. Artists, um, artists look at art and learn to do stuff from looking at art and get inspired by art, because that's just how artists work. I don't really understand some of the criticisms and complaints on that. So, but yeah, I mean, um, that's a whole other issue. I will be interested in the lawsuits on that one. But I mean, I just love some of the stuff it can come up with sometimes, because it's just kind of zany and it's stuff I would never have paid for. So, like, this is going to be a villain, I think. So, evil weasels was the prompt. Evil weasels. Come on, is that not awesome? So, evil weasels are, yeah. So, Colleen Ballinger, nice. I feel like the weasels here might actually be they might be the villain if I do another round of like stuffed animals D&D. So maybe it'll be against these weasels. I think that they would make an excellent villain. So I'm gonna hold that back in my back pocket. All right. We should cover some more law here rather than me rambling about how much I love Midjourney, because as much, I mean, and the other thing that was really great for Midjourney, or like as a use for Midjourney, I'm working on my board game, and I'm just looking to make a prototype. Now, there's no way I was going to hire an artist for prototype stuff. There's just no way, because you don't want to wait for an artist. You want to spend money on your prototypes. You want it to be cheap so that you can iterate fast, right? And you can't do that with you can't do that if you're hiring an artist. So you should never hire an artist for your prototypes for your board game, at least not your early your early prototypes. But it's still nice to be able to have some art for it. So Midjourney let me throw some art on it. And it's all temporary. Like if I actually publish it, I'm going to make real art. Like I'm going to hire people to do real art. So it's actually helping me get to a place where I'll be able to pay an artist. So good. Midjourney is actually potentially going to get me to help pay an artist. So, and Joycey's saying, is this on your Discord? Yes. So I do a lot of that. All right. So let's do another swoop, and then we will talk about some other fun developments. All right. So I would love to claim that I planned this out. I am not a good planner. Instead, I just kind of blundered into this because what am I talking about here? I'm talking about some AI. It's not, we are not talking about Midjourney though. We are talking about Sarah Silverman suing. So it's Sarah Silverman, Christopher Golden, and Richard Kadri. The only one of those I know is Sarah Silverman. She is a comedian who is also fairly controversial. And they are suing OpenAI and all of OpenAI's derivatives and, so forth. So why are they doing that? Well, basically for the usual reasons that people get pissed off about AI. So ChatGPT is a software product created, maintained, and sold by OpenAI. ChatGPT should not be used for legal research because that can get you sanctioned. So, and I see somebody saying calling her a comedian is an insult to comedians. Not all comedians are good. You can be a comedian who is awful. In fact, lots of them are. All right. So ChatGPT is powered by two AI software programs called ChatGPT 3.5 and GPT-4. I don't think that's exactly correct. It's just that there's two different versions of it, also known as large language models. Rather than being programmed in the traditional way, they're absolutely programmed in the traditional way. They just also are programmed to develop some additional stuff. So the large language model is trained by copying massive amounts of text and extracting expressive information from it. Now, they don't actually copy the text usually. What they do is they process the text into something else. So this body of text is called the training data set. Once a large language model has copied and ingested the text in its training data set, it is able to emit convincingly naturalistic text outputs in response to user prompts. I feel like they needed to get an AI person in the room when they were drafting this, because I feel like a fair bit of that, there are some issues with what they said. So a large language model's output is therefore entirely and uniquely reliant on the material in its training data set. Every time it assembles a text output, the model relies on the information it extracted from its training data set. Now, ordinarily, I would say that this is completely irrelevant because, who cares that it relies on information extracted from its training data set? I can tell you, as a lawyer, every time I assemble a text output, I rely on information I extracted from previous reading, right? Like, I wasn't just born as this gray-haired lawyer who suddenly can write a legal brief. Instead, I had to do a whole bunch of reading and, synthesis, and which cases and whatever else. But I rely on the fact that I've read all of this stuff. Plaintiffs and class members are authors of books. Now, I talked to somebody who read Sarah Silverman's book, and they debated that it was in fact a book. So that, but we'll go that for the for the sake of argument. Plaintiffs and class members have registered copyrights in the books they published. Okay. They didn't consent to the use of their copyrighted books as training material for ChatGPT. You don't normally consent for people reading over your material, but nevertheless, they were ingested and used to train ChatGPT. Now, the question here is, did it actually make a copy, or did it just like learn from it? Because that's, I mean, it's not really learning in the same way as you or I, but it is like processing it and so forth. So, yeah. Indeed, when ChatGPT is prompted, ChatGPT generates summaries of plaintiffs' copyrighted works, something only possible if ChatGPT was trained on plaintiffs' copyrighted works. Bullshit. That statement is straight up. Crap. We're only an hour in, and so there I am blowing it. But it's not only possible if ChatGPT was trained on plaintiffs' copyrighted works, because I can tell you, I can come up with a summary of their works without ever reading their works. Let me tell you a story of myself in English class. So I was taking I started out as an English major. I got better, but eventually I sort of realized that if I was going to stay as an English major, all I'd be doing is writing papers to only be read by other English majors. So I got out of that and went into psychology. And then from there, I went into law to really annoy the most possible people. So one of the things that we got assigned is we had to sort of discuss and properly comment and criticize on various pieces. But one of the things that was assigned in this particular class was Wuthering Heights. Now, I can tell you, I've read all sorts of bad books. I have read all sorts of awful, terrible books. And Wuthering Heights is the book that just broke me. I have never finished Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is awful. I couldn't get through it. I just hated it so much. So I didn't read Wuthering Heights. Instead, I read a bunch of essays and papers about Wuthering Heights. I read a bunch of stuff about it. I never actually read Wuthering Heights past chapter 2. So, yeah. Now, I then wrote a paper on Wuthering Heights. And I got an A on that paper. So I generated a summary and a critique and a commentary on Wuthering Heights that I'd never actually read. And I still haven't read. And I never will read because F that book. Right in the appendix. So then we had an exam on, for that class. And the exam included a question about Wuthering Heights. And I aced that exam as well. I have never read Wuthering Heights again, but I was able to generate summaries of it without ever reading the book. So this claim is some hot sidewalk BS. Defendants, by and through the use of ChatGPT, benefit commercial. Guys, you've got to have like junior associates that can proofread your crap. Benefit commercial and profit richly from the use of plaintiffs and class members' copyrighted materials. Yeah. So, jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction. We don't really care because jurisdiction is super boring. It's important, but it's super boring. All right, parties. Plaintiff Sarah Silverman is a writer and performer who lives in California. Plaintiff Silverman owns a registered copyright in one book called The Bedwetter. Great title. This book contains copyright management information customarily included in published books, including the name of the author and year of the publication. Okay, that's a weird thing to put in there. Plaintiff Christopher Golden is also a writer. Plaintiff Richard Cadry is also a writer. Basically, they are writers. They've got their books as Exhibit A. Defendants. OpenAI is a corporation. OpenAI. This is basically going into their corporate structure. So, agents and co-conspirators. The unlawful acts alleged against the defendants in this class action complaint were authorized, ordered, or performed by the defendants' respective officers, agents, employees, representatives, or shareholders. Basically, everybody is on the hook because, yeah. Factual allegations. All right, so now we're going to get into their facts. Ooh. Also, R.K. Long, Frankenstein is an excellent book. I actually like Frankenstein, but I am a sucker for epistollaries. So I am, yeah. All right. You don't have to like epistollaries, but I do. How am I able to read such a fast chat? Attention deficit. If I'm not doing multiple things, I can't do one thing. So, yeah. All right. OpenAI creates and sells artificial intelligence software products, which is designed to algorithmically simulate human reasoning or inference, often using statistical methods. Okay, fair enough. They already went over large language models. We're not going to go through that. They say they're trained by copying massive amounts of text from various sources and feeding these copies into the model. During training, the large language model copies each piece of text in the training data set and extracts expressive information from it, and then it progressively adjusts its output to more closely resemble the sequences of words copied from the training data set. Cool. That to me sounds like what would traditionally be fair use, right? Getting a whole bunch of material and adapting it into something new and different. That said, the Supreme Court has recently in the U.S. decided to F with, to F with copyright rules. So nobody really knows if this is now a violation. We're gonna sort all this out. All right. Birds, am on chat. You are on chat. All right. So basically, authors, including plaintiffs, publish books with certain copyright management information. Here's the thing. You can't prove your book is actually in there because you say that it comes from copyrighted works, including books written by plaintiff, but you can't actually prove that it ever made it in there. You don't know that, at least not so far. So, we'll have to see if this actually has anything that says that. So they say books have always been a key ingredient. Okay. Okay, now we're getting to some actual evidence. They say that they trained GPT-1 on book corpus, a collection of over 7,000 unique unpublished books from a variety of genres, including adventure, fantasy, and romance. Okay, so now are you going to connect book corpus to anything else? All right. Book corpus is a controversial data set assembled or copied from Smashwords that hosts self-published novels available to readers at no cost. Okay. Were your works in book corpus? Because that's going to be key. Were you in, because you need your books to be in there. All right. So they also copied many other books, and 15% came from two internet-based books corpora called Books 1 and Books 2. Tellingly, they have never revealed what books are part of Books 1 and Books 2. Okay. So, 6,300 titles, 294,000 titles. So they say, but there's only a handful of internet-based books corpora that would be able to deliver this much material. Are you going to make a guess? Okay, so they're guessing it's Project Gutenberg, which has over 60,000 titles. Okay. But isn't Project Gutenberg like all public domain stuff? And so the 29 or 294,000 titles, they say the only things that have ever offered that much material are notorious shadow library websites like Library Genesis, Z Library, Sci-Hub, and Bibliothèque, which they say are illegal, copyright violations. But you don't know. You're making a guess. That's it. You're just guessing. So, Runkle messed up the depth line. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but welcome aboard. I slept in that line, and that line sucked. All right. Just looking over here. Yeah, I don't see where they're actually. All they're doing is they've got a guess here. I think if I was the court, I would be inclined to throw this out on a motion to dismiss on the basis of you don't get to discovery on a pure guess that your works were in there. I don't see that they actually can. I mean, now a court may not actually understand things well enough and might allow it through, but I would toss this unless they can actually show somehow what's in it. So yeah. So they say that it can generate writing in the style of a certain author, which they would generate content based on patterns and connections that learn from analysis of that author's work within its training data, or from descriptions of that author's style, or from people saying generate something in the style of H.P. Lovecraft, and then going, no, that's not H.P. Lovecraft, don't like it, and adjusting until they get something that looks like it. So when ChatGPT was prompted to summarize books written by each of the plaintiffs, it generated very accurate summaries. Maybe it just read freaking Wikipedia, dudes. Like maybe it just read Wikipedia, because you can generate a very accurate summary of most big books without reading the book. So, yeah. And class allegations. So basically they're saying there's a bunch of us and we all want to sue together. We're going to skip past that because boring. So claims for relief, direct copyright infringement. They say that they copied them. Yeah, I don't see how they get to this. This lawsuit is pissing me off. Dang it, we still have 40 minutes before I can say what I think of this lawsuit. Remind me to say what I think of this lawsuit when we are past 40 minutes. But get some better evidence that they're actually using your work. Get some better evidence on that, because right now this is pure speculation and your arguments just don't make any sense. Now, there's another one that's very similar. It's filed by the same lawyers with the same plaintiffs, and it's against Meta. And it's against Meta for its Meta AI. I'm not going to read you that one. Why? Because it's the same. Richolas, I was just in the line. I don't know what you're saying about I messed it up. So whatever your beef is, lay it out or shoo. Because, yeah. Do they have something a little better here? So they say the pile on this one. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. So this one, they actually have some things that actually narrow it down to bibliothèque. And so bibliothèque, they actually can track down. So the meta lawsuit actually is a better lawsuit from that sense. So, yeah. All right. What's this? I'm just trying to see here. Let's. Yeah, the meta lawsuit, it actually looks like they can establish some of the books that were in it. So based on this one, I wouldn't. I don't know that I'd toss the meta lawsuit, but I'd toss the Chat GPT one. So, yeah. So if your writing is explicitly violent, ChatGPT won't copy it. Same thing as if it's explicitly sexual. So if you really don't want ChatGPT to copy your work, just write porn. So, yeah. All right. Let's have a look at some other stuff here. Because, and chat's going to remind me that I got to swoop because we got to swoop. All right. All right. Chase P, thank you very much for the YouTube membership. Much appreciated. Cat in Virginia, love take away the shovel and use it to smash the ukulele. I mean, that ukulele could go. Ask Yeshka, thanks for streaming. L'chaim. I hope I got that pronounced right. It's a tough word. Grant Horn, you generated a summary of Wuthering Heights after digesting other summaries of Wuthering Heights. Rinse and repeat for other beleaguered students. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of us out there. K-Rab, she is very confused. The training data allows the tool to use to learn how people use language. Doubt her book is in training sets since it is copyrighted. There'd be a database of facts about people, places, events, book reviews. Yep, I mean, it's possible they used her book, but there's no guarantee on that. They haven't got any evidence so far, just possibilities. Crazy Cat Queen. Hey, Ian, I'm changing my major to criminology so I can study criminal behavior. Kind of thinking about law school after reading about the 7-year-old law school graduate at U of Hawaii in 2017. I love law, so yeah. I'm happy Silverman realizes her writing is so bad it would make the AI stupider and therefore should not be used for teaching Chat GPT. That's a good one there. I see. Are you going to torment Rob on Friday Night Frenzy with the ukulele? I don't own a ukulele. Maybe I should get a ukulele just so I can pop in and start trying to teach myself the ukulele on stream. So let's see. I see Pants with the member chat saying it's been fun watching you refine your prompts. That happens on the Roll of Law Discord. Yvonne saying if you can let him know I DM the fake Corey account, I will check that out. Just Ginge, you need to braid and color your hair for charity/court. Maybe I'll put that up as a charity, as a threshold here. 20th Century Fox, I'm tired of guessing. And L. Fliggins says, don't forget to like the stream. And I see somebody saying I've got the pronunciation wrong. So thank you very much for Pues Panic for the YouTube membership. And I see Runkle, ukulele is a Hawaiian word, pronounced ukulele. When you say uke, then it's uke. Fair enough. I will try to remember to do that right. So I don't know where I'd find an ukulele. I don't know where I would track that down. I would have to I'd have to sort of see if I could maybe a pawn shop might have one. Maybe we'll see. So ask Yeshka, best to think of her work as anonymous and open to use by anyone because it is unpublished. You don't have copyrights. Toss it, file 13. You do actually have You do actually have copyright in unpublished work. So that is something where there is normally a copyright there. But I mean, you can't just show that they violated a copyright to be a class representative. You have to show that It violated yours. So let's I see Law and Lumber. No, no ukulele, please. Already poisoned my brain. Rob, I wanted to play a prank, but I can't actually get in touch with the guy who I wanted to bring on. So Rob, because I can't actually, I was going to try to bring somebody on to ambush you on your stream, but I can't actually manage to do it. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about what is it? I just wanted to show you a little bit about of this weird clip I found, because it's got like budget brand Rob. So like, if the meme of, hey, where's Rob? Well, we've got Rob at home. I can show you the budget knockoff brand. I don't know if you've actually got a screen in front of you if you're just listening it here. Brissy Girl, did Runkle's reaction video get claimed like Emily's did? Not yet. So not yet. But I gotta see if we can. So this is budget brand Rob.
Is there a difference, Ms. Boudreaux, between just zeroing out the child support as of yesterday and specifically giving him possession credit in terms of what you do with the money that's on hold?
I'm sorry, you want to ask that again?
So if I give him possession credit, then I know what's.
I don't know where that guy came from, but he looks so much like Rob if Rob ate more. That's really what it comes down to. It's like Rob's living this like double life somewhere, hiding out somewhere. Yeah, I don't get it. I want to try to track that guy down and just be like, we need to bring this guy on Rob's stream and just the dude in the back. It's the dude in the bottom right. We'll just put him on again here. Bottom right.
Is there a difference, Ms. Boudreaux, between just zeroing out the child support as of yesterday and specifically giving him possession credit in terms of what you do with the money that's on hold?
You see? And he's also a family lawyer. Like, that's a family law proceeding there. So I think we need to convince Rick and David to bring that guy on for an episode of Lawyers and Dragons, so that it can be Glitterblade's evil twin. Does Glitterblade have an evil twin? Because if so, this guy should play him, and it would be just amazing. It would be yeah, I think that would be that has to happen. So Rob, what do you think? I see no resemblance. Somebody says, I disagree that there's no resemblance. All right. So now that I've been, I see somebody saying Glitterblade is the evil twin. That might actually be more accurate. All right. Confetti Blade. Confetti Blade is a good one there. All right. Let's talk about another interesting one, because this one is crazy, and this one is a 3-2 decision, which should have been not a 3-2 decision. It should have been a very obvious call. So let's bring this one up, because I think this one is wild. All right, we'll do a swoop again, because hey, and we'll do classic swoop. Someone said they wanted to see classic swoop, so we've got classic swoop. All right, let's pull this one up. This is one that is shocking, because it should not have been a tough call on this at all. So, and everyone, if you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. It is a free button. There's not a lot that's still free in the world. Inflation is making the price of everything go up, but the like button remains inexpensive. So hit the like button, and it's much appreciated. All right, so this is the case of Robert Leon Hashigan the third. I feel like the third is never really a great thing. You know, it sounds really classy until you're actually like in jail. And the state of Oklahoma. So because he's the first person, you can see that he's the person who's bringing the case. So he's appealing. And why is he appealing? Because he was convicted of murder in the first degree. So murder in the first degree is, it's a big deal. You don't want a conviction of murder in the first degree. So, and I see not for publication. Why don't they want this to be precedent? Oh, you'll see. I have no idea why this was not a published decision, because it's a written decision, but it's not a published decision. So, then District Judge Timothy R. Henderson presided over the appellant's jury trial held on January 25th, 2021 through February 2nd, 2021, and sentenced him in accordance with the jury's verdict to life imprisonment. So that's a long time. Hashigan appeals raising the following issues. So this is what he says the court got wrong. 1, whether Mr. Hashigan was deprived of a fundamentally fair trial of his guilt or innocence because he was tried before a judge who should have been disqualified from presiding over the case due to a previously undisclosed sexual relationship between the judge and one of the prosecutors in the case. So, the judge and the prosecutor, did the thing. And they didn't tell anybody. So he's like, I really ought to have known that. That seems like, a thing that might raise a concern of bias. Just a little bit. Here where I am, if you've ever had a relationship, like let's say I became a judge. If I had ever had a relationship with another lawyer, which I haven't, I've been, but if I had, those lawyers would be disqualified from ever appearing in front of me. Full stop. Even just like lawyers I worked with would be disqualified from appearing in front of me. So, and lawyers I'm friends with and so forth. So, this one did make the news. It is crazy because it gets worse. Whether appellant's rights to due process and a fair trial were violated by the improper admission of evidence of the defendant's propensity to commit acts of violence against women. So that's propensity evidence he doesn't want in. He has issue about failure to prove it, that he committed the burglary, sufficiency of the evidence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, whether the appellant's rights to due process and a fair trial fell prey to overzealous prosecutors who expressed personal opinions of guilt, argued facts not in evidence, and elicited sympathy for the victim, and whether the accumulation of error is enough to get you a new verdict. Now, in the U.S., they do not like new verdicts at all. The U.S. does not like new verdicts at all. But this story is actually a lot worse than it sounds. And you might be saying, how can this be worse? How? Like, this already sounds real bad. So this Judge Timothy Henderson, is not a judge no more. So if we were playing the still a cop versus not a cop no more, but for judges, this judge, not a judge no more. He resigned in March. So right like a month after this trial was February 2nd, 2021. He resigned in March of 2021. Why did he resign? Well, 3 female attorneys came forward with allegations of serious SA. So he had 3 lawyers who alleged, 3 female lawyers who alleged he'd SA'd them. That's a big deal. And here's the fun thing. Here's where it gets really messed up. You ready for this? Because it's a doozy of a note. It's a doozy of a note. He made a statement where he described the involvement with 2 of the women as consensual. There are 3 women making allegations, and you say 2 of them were consensual. What does that sound like? I don't know, but that seems messed up. That seems like a problem to me. So, yeah, I feel like you should not have this judge presiding over your murder trial and all of this. So, he was not charged with any of them, but still, this is real bad, like real bad. So, yeah, they find relief in the form of a new trial is required on an appellant's claim of judicial bias in Proposition 1. We don't need to look at anything else because there's bias. So, appellant asserted in his first proposition, after the conclusion of his trial, newly discovered evidence emerged of an undisclosed sexual relationship between the trial judge, Henderson, and one of the 3 prosecutors who tried the case, Oklahoma County Assistant District Attorney KC. And they've got this. This is an important detail here. This court routinely identifies victims of SA using initials because they don't want to reveal their name. Case was or was not a victim. We identify this individual through the use of initials out of an abundance of caution. How can you have a trial where the judge might have SA'd one of the lawyers? So he requests a new, he asks that this go to an evidentiary hearing, saying that this raises serious questions. And so they had an evidentiary hearing and staying further briefing in this appeal pending the completion of the remanded proceedings. They had the Judge Paul Hesse presided over the hearing, and he filed his findings of fact and conclusions of law with this court on December 20th, 2021, recommending a new trial. So they have a judge look at this, and he goes, there's a lot of smoke here. Smells like fire, feels like fire, bright like fire, causing burning like fire. We think there's a problem. So, he filed an appeal requesting a new trial in light of this new evidence. So he provides factual findings and conclusions of law, that judge, and we'll just scroll to those because, Following a jury trial where KC questioned multiple witnesses and provided closing argument, which makes it possible to track down who she is, but whatever. We're not going to do that work here. They found him guilty of murder in the first degree and recommended a punishment of life in prison. However, he found that they were involved in an undisclosed sexual relationship from April of 2016 through summer of 2018. So, 2 years and a bit. Appellant and his attorneys were unaware of the relationship, and moreover, neither the judge nor the prosecutor disclosed the relationship to appellant or his attorneys. Now, you normally have an ethical obligation as a prosecutor or a judge to raise this kind of thing, right? To say, hey, just so you're aware. Now, I should say, I've had judges. I had a judge at one point. I was going in and I'm going to do a guilty plea with my client. And the judge says, I can't do this guilty plea because I represented this guy 20 years ago. Cool. We get a new judge. I've had situations where I go in and the judge says, Mr. Runkle, I previously sentenced this guy. Do you want to do the guilty plea in front of me? Are you okay with that? And I was like, sure. But if it was, hey, I've Mr. Runkle, I'm having sex or have had sex with the prosecutor, I would have been like, no, I think we need a new judge for this. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So they failed to request his recusal or otherwise raise the issue of bias at the lower court because how could they? They didn't know. Notably, they confirmed that defense counsel would have requested his recusal if the relationship had been disclosed. What else would you be saying here? Creed, I haven't yet. So I haven't yet. All right. So they say the Constitution of Oklahoma guarantees a right to a fair, impartial trial not tainted by personal bias or prejudice of the trial court. And if you're wondering, getting your freak on might seem like a thing that might cause personal bias or prejudice. So accordingly, the judge found that circumstances that create the likelihood or appearance of bias violate the law. So, yeah. Discussion. Because they have to discuss this at this point. Like, you'd think that this would be it. Like, hey, we found that they did actually get the bang on, so we're not doing this. And I am assuming that this is consensual here, but I don't know for sure. Either way, it's pretty messed up. So, we recently decided that in Ford versus State, that in such an extraordinary case where a relationship between the judge and the prosecutor was kept secret, we had to determine whether the effect of these events violate the due process rights of the defendant. Why would you have to determine this? Like, why wouldn't you just say, hey, it does, like, full stop, that is a violation? I mean, when you're talking about a sexual relationship or a close family relationship, or like, oh, hey, the prosecutor was also the judge's kid, something like that, you would think that would be an issue there. So contrary to the state's argument that the undisclosed relationship ended before trial presents a unique and novel circumstance, we find that this fact is not materially different from Fort, nor does it remove our concern as to the trial judge's potential bias. The prosecution went in and was like, the verdict should stand because they weren't still banging. They had like 3 years ago. And I'm going, 3 years is a real close time. Especially because this is another thing that is worth noting. The judge was married at the time. So this was a covert affair. Yeah. I feel like the covert affair thing is also super relevant here in terms of all of this. Pro tip. If you are a judge and you want to step out on your wife or husband, which you shouldn't, maybe not with lawyers who appear in front of you in your court. No. So, decision. We are reversing, and they're ordering a new trial. But here's where it gets real messed up as well. Lewis dissenting. We got a dissent. We got somebody who disagrees because this was a 3-2 decision. This was a narrow decision, right? 3-2. Due process requires a judge's recusal when the probability of actual bias is objectively too great to be tolerable. How do you not get to that from these facts? The objective facts here, says the dissent, are the undisclosed existence of a sexual relationship between the trial prosecutor and the then married trial judge that ended more than 2 years before the current trial. These facts do not establish an especially high degree of risk that the average trial judge in this situation is objectively likely to be biased in favor of the state and against the defendant. What? Like, have these people never dated? Have they never? Now, I mean, maybe they're saying that, like, listen, I hate all of my exes, so he would have been biased against the prosecutor. But, like, most of us have exes we remember fondly, and it might not be like, hey, I want to get with this person again. Nothing like that. It's just like, had a good time with this person, enjoyed the time we spent. Relationship doesn't work out for whatever reason, but you don't hate them. You've got fond memories. So this is crazy town to me. This is crazy town. This is not to condone the judge's or the prosecutor's bad behavior. Our legal duty is to rationally assess the probability of an unconstitutional potential for judicial bias being somehow inherent to these objective facts. How can it not be? So they say the court instead expresses its abhorrence at the judge's conduct by expanding Fort beyond the probable effect of these facts. So I just don't get it. So they say the failure of this judge and the prosecutor to scrupulously avoid the potential for an error of this kind is indeed a betrayal of the high ethical standards to which all legal professionals should aspire. Yeet the case then. Like, yeet. I don't know. Do the kids still say yeet? Or am I just aging myself here? But an objective appraisal of the probability of actual bias respects not only the defendant, but also the courts, the public, crime victims, and family members on both sides who must collectively bear the heavy costs of reversal. But, I mean, we got to have fair trials, right? This is nuts to me. Like, oh, they finished banging a couple years prior, so no big deal. Like, so yeah. He says that it doesn't show an objectively intolerable potential for judicial bias that violated due process. What would an objectively intolerable potential look like to this guy, right? How is this guy a judge? How is this? So, and then we have another dissent. Judge Lumpkin. And I'm just going to say, this guy, whoever named Judge Lumpkin, like, chef's kiss. You nailed the name, because Lumpkin is exactly the kind of name that I would name this guy. Judge Lumpkin. Perfect. No notes. No notes. So I dissent to the court's resolution of this case. As in Fort, the appellant has failed to show that he suffered prejudice from judicial bias. Additionally, in this case, the record reveals that the relationship between Judge Henderson and the prosecutor ended over 2 years prior to appellant's trial. I'm just going to say here, I don't care if it ended 15 years prior. I am fine with a general rule saying you don't get to preside over cases with lawyers you banged. Just as a general principle, right? Just as a flat overall rule. I'm thinking about exceptions. Not really coming up. Not that I can think of. So, yeah. Yeah. So, they're saying that an appellant must show instances of the trial court's actual bias against him, which materially affected his rights and prejudiced him. So I feel like you can show actual bias by saying, hey, at some point his penis was in something of hers. You know what? We're not going to get into specifics. Something. And yeah, this is an important point. Disclose the thing and let the parties object. Don't keep that she secret. Secret equals overturned. Yeah. And also, I feel like when they have a shared secret, because this guy is cheating on his wife, right? He's cheating, And so they're both keeping this secret together. That effectively makes them somewhat co-conspirators. It means that she's got blackmail material on the judge, right? Because the judge doesn't want this being revealed. He doesn't want it being announced that he is stepping out on his wife, because then he might be forced to resign, which happened a month afterwards. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, this is just how easy it is. Judge could have just said, I knew her, we were friends, I need to step out from this case. No one would have had to know. Yeah. The judge could have just said, hey, I've got a conflict of interest. I can't disclose why. Nobody would care, because ultimately, if all they did was say, I have a conflict of interest and can't disclose why, people might have been like, oh, maybe he represented dude way back when. Maybe he represented random witness way back when. Maybe he's got something there. So there's all, like, he could have gotten this out super easily. He just chose not to. So, as in Fort, this court has not reviewed the record regarding appellant's allegations of judicial bias and makes no determination of the merit. Rather, it has decided that Judge Henderson's out-of-court actions with the prosecutors 2 years prior to appellant's trial alone warrant reversal. 2 years is nothing in, relationship breakup terms. 2 years is like nothing. So, what is it? Judge is in the power position and can just bounce. Prosecutor has the higher burden to seek recusal and would have had to disclose details. This is on the judge. I suspect the prosecutor could have, if they wanted, just asked in their office to be reassigned as well. Like, hey, this judge just came down. Yeah. But I agree that this is on the judge. It is also on the prosecutor, because the prosecutor should have been like, Judge, I'm asking you to recuse. It's your call. Do you want me to make the full application, or do you want to recuse? And if the judge didn't, it would have been like, all right, we're tendering all the details, because that's the ethical responsibility there. Yeah, they're basically saying that this guy had to show actual bias, but how do you prove that unless the court is like, this is basically expecting this guy to come up with this really high standard for what the evidence would be, because he's got to be able to show that there was actual specific bias. And meanwhile, the judge isn't going to be like, oh yeah, well, jury, you should convict this guy because he's a real, douche or something like that. So yeah, I just can't see it. Did the lawyer get sanctioned for failure to disclose? I don't know. And I suspect that the lawyer might have been like, she might have been one of the people making the complaint, and that probably would have immunized her from fallout on that. So yeah. All right. So let's just look here. Let us do a swoop here, and this is a good point here. Or a prosecutor would have cast aside pride of getting the collar and walked. Just a messed up situation all around. Yep. The thing is in a lot of situations, you're not going to be able to, in a lot of these situations, you're not going to be able to show actual bias, right? Because bias can be subtle. Let's say you are, it's the 50s and you're the first black family moving onto a street, and, somebody's dog keeps crapping on your yard. Do you know if it was specifically because they're racist, or is it just because people have dogs that crap on yards? Well, you don't know for sure, but if it keeps happening, then yeah. Somebody says, are we going to discuss the latest with Pastor Archer Pawlowski? I haven't been following the latest on Pawlowski. So, yeah. And I see Law and Lumber saying, you better believe I'd get sanctioned for not disclosing something like that. Also, tons of nasty examples of lawyers on divorces messing around with clients and not disclosing. Yeah, I'm sorry. If you mess around with, with your clients, that should be the end of it. It wouldn't be the dog being racist. It would be the owner being racist and leading the dog there. I don't know if it's the best example I've ever come up with, but I'm just coming up with stuff on the fly. It's just my the weirdness of my brain, right? You can't necessarily tell sometimes whether something is biased or just, the ordinary dickery of the universe, because the universe is full of dickery. Like, let's say your judge is a wanker to you. Is it because your judge is just having a bad day, or is it because he's biased, right? You don't know. It can actually be really hard to establish all of that. So people are really stuck on the dog poop thing. Ian also check. I made firecracker meatballs with the Scotch bonnet hot sauce from Hot Ones. Ooh, I gotta check that out. Oh, that looks good. I've got some peppers in my garden that I'm really looking forward to because they're gonna be so good. I'm so looking forward to the spicy peppers out of the garden. I haven't decided what I might do with them. I might pickle them because, peppers are good stuff. Also, people were talking about Colleen Ballinger. Let me see if I can enlarge this. Somebody posted this comic to my to the Roll of Law Discord, and I feel like it's so appropriate. And now, a request from the audience, as the guy's got his sledgehammer on the. So yeah, I like that one a lot. All right. So let's see. There is some other developments, but that one is crazy. I see. Can the bear sue? No, the bear does not have the right to sue. So yeah. Oh yes, your Colleen video was Chef's Kiss. I actually saw that. I think it's Adam McIntyre. I'm bad with names there, but he did a reaction video to my reaction video, and I haven't watched it. I'm nervous to watch it because I am worried because that guy went through a lot, and I'm worried because he's going to be like, "Hey, F this Runkle guy." I haven't watched it. I'm gonna wait until I'm sort of feeling a little more sort of courageous to watch it. But it's I'll watch it. Apparently, here, let me throw up a poll because apparently there is some debate in his comments section from the people I've heard reporting on this one. So let me just pull this one, or let me just make a poll here, because there is some debate and we have to sort this out. What is Runkle most like? A, Elf. B, Witcher. And then C, Lucius Malfoy. Fire. All right, so there's a poll. So we can see the poll there on that because it's good. He called you professionally petty. I mean, it is kind of the job sometimes. So I'm gonna have to go through that and just see if I can. I'll have to look over it at some point. But we can talk about the Costco Twitter debate. But first, we're going to do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom. I've seen, would there be an issue if prosecutor or defense counsel were exes? Yep, sometimes. Would they have to assign a new prosecutor? I've seen it happen. Yep, I've seen it happen. So, yeah. I have actually had prosecutors say, you know, hey, I'm friends with Runkle, so I can't appear on files with Runkle. So, yeah. All right. What did I think of the video before? I hadn't watched the video until I did the reaction to it. It's catchy, but oh my god, as a criminal defense lawyer, yeah. So I wanted a reminder to say what I wanted to say. That lawsuit looks like fucking bullshit, and they needed to get their ducks in a row before they fuck up their ducks. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, they really, they could have actually done that a better way, but they didn't, and they might end up getting their lawsuit yeeted. And if they do, I'm gonna laugh because yeah, it needs that. Malfoy's hair is combed. I comb it occasionally, sometimes. Not today, but sometimes. Have I looked at the chess cheating lawsuit I sent you a few weeks ago? I haven't. Send it to me again. I am behind. I'm behind on so much stuff. I don't know why, but I just absentmindedly ate a. So I've got these still sitting on my desk. Dr. Fire Blast Balls, which I think Corey would have really liked the name of. They worm. They're actually pretty tasty, believe it or not. So, what is it? Malfoy's hair is blonde, not white. I'll have to watch that again. All right. Yeah, I might actually try to get a Witcher costume together, because yeah, your wife is probably right, but yeah, Malfoy's hair is a wig maintained by a wardrobe department. Mine is just hair, like that's attached to me. So, where did I buy the candy? Convenience store near me that does weird candies. So, and I guess now that I mentioned it, now that we've got, we've sort of talked about Corey, he's still raising funds, or Pixie is, because they're hoping to set up a foundation so that there can be a lasting benefit for Corey and that. So we'll, if you can, they've still got that GoFundMe going. They're trying to raise £75,000, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but yeah. Elf Liggins says, totally want to see Ian do a Get Ready With Me stream. What is that? What is that one? Oh, the blast balls are probably better than Da Bomb, which tastes like burnt a-hole. You're right. You know what is better than Da Bomb? Just about everything, except somebody sent me this freaking gummy. So this gummy is it's like this spicy gummy. It tasted so bad. So bad. I ate half of it, and they were like, you got to hold it in your mouth for 5 minutes. And I was like, it tastes so bad. It tastes so bad. I did share my thoughts. I said that lawsuit is freaking stupid. That they need to actually get their They need to actually have the evidence to show that their video is in there. These Instagram girls do their hair and makeup and pick out their outfits to show how they get ready. Okay. Let me tell you what my get ready routine is. Roll out of bed. Stumble into closet. Grab a shirt that looks like it fits. Grab a shirt, that seems like it'll fit. Put on some pants. Put on, socks, underwear, all of that. And then walk upstairs and start work. That's my get ready routine. Like, there isn't anything super fancy to it. It's just wake up and exist. That's about it. So, yeah, is it the teddy bear? Yes, I have 3 and they look chemically and gross. Makes me nervous. They, like, the one I had was hard. It was like super chewy and yuck. The flavor is gross. And the thing is like, you've all seen me just take straight pulls, like out of hot sauce, right? You've all seen me take just like a straight drink of hot sauce. Well, those don't mess me up. That gummy bear, oh, my stomach was just hurting. So yeah, I was not a big fan of it. I will recommend that you throw that gummy bear out. So yeah. Anyone have an immediate home remedy for mosquitoes? Chlorine gas. I don't actually know if they're vulnerable to it. So, like that. Who looks at Runkle and thinks there's any content for a getting ready stream? I mean, I could make one funny. That could be entertaining. I could think of how to make that into a joke. Getting ready stream, but yeah. Oh, and somebody's impersonating me on Twitter again. It happens. Twitter is actually a real pain in the butt about reporting like fake accounts. So yeah, they're just a problem there. So you have to like send them your ID and so forth. But that's weird. They've got an account with my name and somebody else's picture. But yeah, it'll just be some standard scammy thing. So it is what it is. Not gonna fuss about it too much. I see vinegar on mosquito bites stops the itching. Yes. I don't worry too much about mosquito bites. They just don't bother me all that much. All right. Now, I see people wanted me to... will there be a members-only TOTC this week? I got to figure out... our thumbnail guy, I've lost his email address, so I have to actually find that again. Rob, shoot me the address of the email address of the thumbnail guy, so then I can try to get a thumbnail together. I don't know if we're doing it this week or what, because I've been full of chaos. So, all right, let me just do another swoop here, and then we'll chat about some other chaos. All right. So the other thing that Apple Silver in my chat was asking me to raise was a debate that I had on Twitter. Not much of a debate, just a discussion. Talking about showing receipts at stores. So here's the basic scenario is you go into a store, you buy a bunch of crap, you go to walk out, and they say, "Can we see your receipt?" And the question is, what do you have to do? Because my go-to response is to say, go F yourself. Goodbye. I don't say go F yourself, but it's just like the last time I was at the Walmart. So I went to the Walmart and they the what do you call it? Those little alarms at the exit went off, and they had this guy who's there looking all like super hard. He's a security guard in a stab vest and all of this, and I'm like, dude, it's a freaking Walmart. But he goes and he's like, sir, and I'm like, I heard it. I just kept walking. The question is, can you do that? Or if you walk up and they're like, where's your receipt? Like, can we see your receipt? It's like, no, you can't. I don't have to show it to you. So now the question that came up in the Twitter debate was that another lawyer was saying that it's different at Costco. And the thing is, it's only kind of different at Costco. And what I mean by that is that Costco doesn't have the ability to stop you from leaving either, just because you agreed to a contract. So Costco doesn't have the ability to, stop you. But if you keep walking and you don't show the receipt at a Costco, they might cancel your membership. But the thing is that theoretically, Walmart could just ban you from the store. Like when I walked out of the Walmart saying, hey, I'm not showing you I'm just keeping on walking. They could have been like, well, we're banning you. And it would be like, okay, that's your right. Like you can ban somebody from your store. And that's it. Shoplifting causes millions of dollars of damage. So how would you deal with the other side of the story? Well, first, about 70% of shrink at stores is caused by employees. So first of all, they are searching the wrong people. Second, those detectors go off and they are wrong somewhere around 95% of the time. 95%. So when you're wrong 19 times out of 20, that's a you problem. I mean, if those detectors were 100% accurate and showed that you had actually stolen something, then cool beans, right? Okay, that's a good reason to stop somebody. But they are wrong 95% of the time. So why would I stop for that? Like, why would I do anything? So, yeah. Somebody says, how can they ban you if they don't know your name? Costco will actually go back and track, like they'll use their cameras if they want to ban you and figure out which membership card you swiped or showed or whatever else. They'll try to ban you. So Costco will make the effort to try to ban you even if you don't go out. The other thing is that overall, stores steal more from their employees typically than they lose in shoplifting. So if we're going to start fussing about all of this, we should start sending people to jail for wage theft, because we don't at the moment. So if the employee steals a candy bar, they will throw the employee in jail. But if but like if the employer steals half an hour off the employee's day every day that they're there, that'll work out to a theft of tens of thousands of dollars if they're working there for a while. So, if we want to get serious about all of that, then let's get serious. It normally means a tag is still on, so I want that off, so I stop. I can take a tag off. That's no problem. Those, I'm handy. That's not an issue. So if they forget a tag, that's on them. But the other thing is that, like, at the Walmart, literally what it was I bought steak. And then they literally did not have a non-self-checkout open. So I had to go I had to go to the self-checkout, like, because they didn't have anything else. And so because of that, I go and scan the thing, and it didn't deactivate the tag on this steak. I paid for the steak. It's my steak. So at this point, I don't want to have the security guard handling my steak because it's mine. I'm going to eat this later. Keep your grubby hands off it. And it's my receipt. It's my bag. All of this is my property. So, yeah, all of that is my property. So why would I want to get detained from these people, like, when it's their system that is screwing up, right? So, and Rob, good luck with court in the morning. So signing off for tonight. Good night, all. Good luck. Security tag on steak. I've never seen that before. It's like a little RFID tag that they just stick under the label. So yeah, that's it. But I mean, yeah, we're getting to the point where there is more and more theft because there's more and more people who can't pay their bills, because inflation is getting so high that they're really getting desperate. And I'm going, but I paid for my steak, right? I paid for this. So, yeah. Donna J saying security tags here are ink ones on clothes. I mean, they're also not hard to take off. So, yeah, I'm not going to say how, because, yeah, but I mean, I've gotten home and they've got ink tags. Like, I've had ink tags on things, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just pop that off because, yeah. I see stores are auditing a cashier when they ask for your receipt. That's a them problem. If the stores are auditing the cashier, I'm not required to help. If you want me to help with your audit procedures, I will tell you what my rates are. Like, we'll work it out. I can appear as a consultant. I'm going to charge $300 an hour for my consulting to Walmart. Minimum of 8 hours, because I don't get up for if they're asking me to help with an audit of the cashier, then you can pay my consulting rates. So, yeah. How can they be auditing the cashier on a self-checkout? Well, I mean, I'm the cashier on a self-checkout. So, yeah, it's I like this one as well. Now, if he started a cooking channel, he could be Runkle of the Bay Leaf. Yeah. And the other thing about what do you call it? Somebody said I stopped because they what do you call it? Because you might get dinged at the next store. I had a moment where I was walking along, and every time I went to a store, it was ringing, and it was because I stepped on one of the little tags that was sitting on the ground, and it was stuck to the ground. So I went and was walking into stores, and it would go off, and it would be like, all right, well, yeah. So I see. What do you think about attorney says don't use self-checkout? I haven't seen that video. It's probably nonsense, but that said, I have seen people get, falsely arrested and so forth over self-checkout. Self-checkout is a big annoyance. It's, yeah. Now, keep in mind, you have to be aware that there are various places where there might be what's called shopkeeper's privilege. And if you're living in a place that has shopkeeper's privilege, then at that point, you might have to stop. They might actually have the ability to stop you. Check with Leto's Law. Just did a video where he was looking at a guy who sued in an area that had shopkeeper's privilege, and they say, hey, they were allowed to stop you. This is the other thing. My ex is a pacemaker, and it sets off alarms all the time. Yep, there's all sorts of reasons there. And this is another sort of Interesting one. I try to never use self-checkout. I'm not an employee. Right. And I can tell you the self-checkouts, the other dirty little secret that the stores have is that stores, it's actually really difficult for the, assuming you don't make a statement to the police, it can be very difficult for the stores to prove theft in a lot of circumstances where they have self-checkout problems. Why? Because I'm not an employee. I am not an expert in their self-checkout system by any stretch. So if I F it up, well, prove it. So, yeah. I see Apple Silver saying my family runs a liquor store in Lloydminster. The theft is insane. Absolutely. But here's the thing. It at the liquor stores allow for the theft because it makes them more money. They make more money with the theft than preventing the theft. And I can say that's not the case everywhere you go. When it starts getting to the point where preventing the theft costs or saves you money, that's what they do. So what you'll end up seeing is like I've been to liquor stores in some places in the US or some places elsewhere where the liquor store is literally a kiosk you walk up to with like a guy behind glass, and they go, okay, what do you want? And you say, well, I'd like a rum, please. And they go, which brand? Here's our list of brands. And you pick one. Like, I'd like a bottle of Kraken, whatever. And then you pay for it. And once you've paid for it, the guy puts it in a hatch and slides it over to you and you get it. At that point, theft drops to zero, right? Because nobody's really stealing a bottle of booze because it's behind a freaking wall. The guy is behind a wall. There is security glass. There's the dude. Even if you walk up with a shotgun and you're like, I got a shotgun. The guy's like, cool, I'm behind bulletproof glass. Go F yourself. And your hat. And you don't get booze, right? Or you walk up with a high-powered rifle and you shoot him through the bulletproof glass, and then you still don't get the booze because it's locked behind there. But that costs them a whole pile of money, because when I go to the liquor store, I might wander around and buy random stuff. My wife went to the liquor store. She bought this, and she doesn't like it. So I've got it. But it was a purely impulse purchase. She thought maybe she'd like it, and then she didn't. So now it's mine. She wouldn't have bought this if she had to buy this through a grate. I bought like Jello shots at the thing. I bought like, hey, there's a beer in the fridge that looks kind of cool. In fact, I might go walk to the liquor store after this, walk in there and find something that looks cool. So they make more money on that than they lose to theft. So that's why they don't do it. So yeah. Daniel Taylor says lime juice or no lime juice in a gin and tonic. I like both. If you put heavy lime, then you've got a Tom Collins, and that's a solid one. So yep. So I'm not super fussed. Like, they'll figure out their loss prevention, and if it's really that big of a deal, they'll get rid of the self-checkouts. It's not that hard overall. So, yeah. I bought the shots at the cashier many times because they look good. Yeah, you walk up and it's like, hey, I bought in scotches, and like a scotch is not a small buy, right? A scotch is like you walk in and it's like, okay, I've just dropped like $140 on an impulse purchase. That's a big purchase. But I've done it because you're just there and you're like, ooh, that looks tasty. I've had some good, hey, I'm out of scotch, I'll just buy one, and you weren't planning on it. Liquor stores like question mark to me. I could buy alcohol in the supermarket age 16, wine age 18 in the supermarkets. Night shops also sell hard liquor. They rarely even ask for your age unless you look 10. Here, all of the alcohol has to be sold at like a dedicated liquor store. So yeah. 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 Let's see. And I see somebody saying that they buy Kraken because they like the way the bottle works. I also buy Kraken because it actually works pretty good in like a dark and stormy. Kraken is pretty solid. Yeah. Anyone that hasn't been to the beer store in Canada, it's a whole different experience from what we have. Stuff comes out from the back on rollers. The U.S. is, yeah. Nick Cressman, you say you've got an important fact in AFD Moose Guy. Do tell. I'm curious. So, I mean, I go and buy random stuff, right? I've picked up random weird stuff. You know, drop in for a couple of cans of rare breed and end up walking out with a $130 carton of a new Dunkel. I don't know what a Dunkel is. Now I'm trying to check that out. Dunkel liquor. What is that? Dunkel? I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that there's a Dunkel law firm that is in Red Deer, I think it is. So, yeah. Somebody was saying that it's called Bottleos. I've always called them a the jar shop is another one. I hate Ontario, by the way, because Ontario does the LCBO, and so they're a dedicated liquor store, and they suck. And there's only like one every like 60 blocks. So it really sucked because Dunkel is a beer. I'm not a huge like fancy beer guy. I'll drink whatever, but I'm not like a so here is my experience with really hating the liquor deep or the liquor LCBO in Ontario. So February 2019, and I believe that this was February 2019 of February 14. So Valentine's Day. I have just been to the Supreme Court. I have just won at the Supreme Court. A friend of mine, a lawyer, sent me, she was like, hey, congratulations. Here's $150. Go buy a nice champagne, which I thought was fantastic, right? I was like, that is fantastic. So I went and I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the liquor store, but I'm in Ontario. I don't have a rental car. So I get out and I have to start walking to this liquor store. And it was like a 30-minute walk to get to the liquor store to get this bottle of champagne. And then a 30-minute walk back with my bottle of champagne, just freaking hating life because I'm like, I should be drunk already. What the hell? And then I got my champagne, and that was quite pleasant. The hotel was actually pretty chill. The hotel gave me a couple of glasses. I was up. I had a nice hot bath and a bottle of champagne. And then I went out for dinner to celebrate. And let me tell you, going out for dinner to celebrate on Valentine's Day is a whole mood when you're doing it on your own, because Mrs. Runkle was back here in Edmonton. So I'm out trying to celebrate, and I got turned down at one restaurant. They were just like, no, we're not doing tables for one today. And then another restaurant, they were like, really, one person? And I just sort of leaned over and I was like, I'm going to tip the hell out of you today. And, but I'm here celebrating. Just get me a table. And to be fair, this was at like this ramen place that was actually quite good. I had waited in line for, I had to wait in line for like 45 minutes to get to the front of this. And what is it? Once I got to the front, they're like, "Hey, we'd really rather have a table for two," and I'm like, "Give me the freaking table." So they did, and I tipped them well because I knew that they were expecting to have two people there. But yeah, I mean, it was a good day. I just won. It was amazing. So, like, yeah, but don't go out as a solo person on Valentine's Day, because they really, all the two top tables, they want to be they want to have two people there, right? To each of them buying booze, each of them whatever. And so I was there like, hey, I'm sitting there like trying to make sure that I'm like that this table is worth it for them. So I'm just like, bring me your cocktail list and also the most expensive one. And so yeah, it was a good one. Emma Zay saying, "Yikes! I'd never wait 45 minutes for a table." It was really good. It was a really good ramen place. I didn't regret the wait. I was like, just let me eat though, please. Like, I'm in a foreign town. So yeah, that was frustrating, but also it was a good day. I mean, it's just one of those days where, as much as it's frustrating, nothing can go wrong, and you're still like, everything is fantastic. And yeah, so I can't complain too much. Somebody was asking, what do I think? I see ramen shop not allowing a solo. They aren't being very culturally appropriate. Then ramen shops are usually solo in Japan or post drinking snack. This was in Toronto or in Ottawa though, so they just wanted to have the two people there. They wanted to have the two people. All right, let's do some super chats here. Ask Yeshka, best to think of her work as anonymous and open to use by anyone because it is unpublished. You don't have copyrights. Toss it. File 13. I think I covered that one. Law and Lumber. No ukulele, please. Already poisoned my brain. Fair enough. Ask Yeshka. Thank you very much. Thank you for correcting my assumption, Runkle, Bobunkle, Banana Feta Fofi Fifo. Yes, you pronounced Lahaim spot on. Thank you. Jeragon, definitely a cross between the Witcher and an elf. I got to close that poll and see where we're at. Rihanna, we're here for your perspective, humor, and hair. Oh, thank you very much. Local admin, thank you for the YouTube membership. Much appreciated. Joloi, Knight Ian, all the best. Love to Potter. Great subjects. Thank you very much. Also just good to hang out. Apple Silver, as an experienced tort lawyer, what are your thoughts on the new tort of family violence remedy and the defeat in appeals this week? I haven't actually followed that story. I'll have to check that out and do commentary on that. So yeah, I see. Wait, the ramen place didn't have counter seats. It did not. No. It was pretty packed, and there weren't any counter seats. The smallest that they had were tables for two. I don't know why they didn't have counter seats, because I would have taken a counter seat, no problem. Also, pro tip, go to good sushi places and go sit at the counter. Some of the best meals I've ever had have been going alone to a good sushi place, sitting at the counter. And I forget the name I forget the term for it, but there's a way to just basically tell the staff, like, hey, I'm here, feed me. You pick what I'm making or what I'm eating. And that is, I've always had it as a good thing, right? I've always had it work out pretty well. So, yeah, omakase. Yeah, it's so the one time I went in at one place, I went in and I just asked for the omakase, and they were like, okay. And he says, how adventurous are you? And I said, I'll eat anything. And he says, anything. I said, anything. And he's like, okay. And it was such a good night. He was bringing me all sorts of weird weird stuff. And some of it, like, there's only one thing I didn't like. I don't like Urchin. Urchin is not great, but everything else I just loved. It was fantastic. So I had a great night. So yeah. In Japan, small ramen shops have standing up only service. You eat at a counter waist high, designed for a quick bite and run meal. Ooh, nice. I would love to go see Japan. I would love to see a lot of places. I want to see Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, lots of places I want to see. I want to see all sorts of places because, yeah. This one I haven't heard of. What's that place in Edmonton with a sushi buffet on dishes that go by on that train thing and you take what you want? I haven't heard of that place. But if you can figure that out, I will totally eat there because there's a place in Vancouver that was super good that it actually did that with a little stream. And so the stream was actually pretty awesome because there's just little boats with sushi that floats by. And you just pick up your plate, and then later they charge you for all the plates you've got. So yeah, it's pretty good. Crazy Cat Queen saying if you and the missus go to Japan, I volunteer to join you as your interpreter. I might take you up on that because I speak zero Japanese. And Juliet Danielson, if you're willing to wait a few hours, I'll bring you to the best tantamen in Tokyo. I would be absolutely willing to wait for good food. So, yeah, I like good food. I like good stuff. So, all right. There are also some developments in the now I'm blanking, the Kohberger trial. So, we'll do a what is it? We'll do a quick swoop here, and then we'll cover Kohberger, and then we will wrap up because, yeah, we've been at this for 2.5 hours, and I kind of still want to do some leather work, to be honest, because leather work is awesome. All right, and somebody's recommending Iceland. That would be good to check out at some point. Lots of places I want to see. I've been to Norway. I would go to Norway again. My wife is more the like, we haven't seen everything, so let's go see more stuff. This one, if you come to Australia, I'll act as your interpreter. I'm actually pretty good at picking out accents. Like, so long as it's English, I'm pretty good at picking out accents because doing law, you encounter a lot of different ones. Traveling science man, Uncle of the Bailey, you should come to Peru. I should also get back to you because I am super bad at responding to things. I've been juggling way too many things. So, comes now the state of Idaho. I didn't even know they were breathing hard. Yeah. Yeah, I just I hate the comes now intro. I hate it. So I just hate the heck out of it. But by and through the La County prosecuting attorney and respectfully request that this court reconsider its order staying time for a speedy trial. And why are they asking that? They're saying the law does not allow the defendant to partially waive his statutory right to a speedy trial, and thus his acquiescence to the limited stay should be deemed a full waiver of speedy trial. So basically what they're trying to say here is that you either need to decide that either Kohberger needs to waive his right to a speedy trial entirely and, get into trial right now, or he needs to waive it, or in which case the prosecution can take however long they need to. So, yeah, it's So they say, due to these practical considerations, the court respectfully requests that they rescind its order, staying time for a speedy trial. Or alternatively, that it be moved beyond the speedy trial period only if defendant unambiguously waives his right to a speedy trial. Yeah. The Hutch says the only accent I can't decipher is Cajun. Cajun is fun. That said, Cajun accent, I have encountered some really freaking crazy Cajuns. So I would love to go to like Mardi Gras and see that whole crazy thing, because also just to eat the heck out of everything. Like, I want to have all the food. So, because, yeah. So basically, this is like what we're talking about here. He's saying, or he got a limited stay to toll the speedy trial for a period of 37 days. And they're saying you can't do that. They're saying you have to, and this is not in order because, yeah. So they're saying you can't do that. You have to either waive it entirely or, or just run on the usual time. Now, this to me feels like, strong arming, right? Because it's saying like, hey, I'm not ready, but I don't want to just wait until forever. And yeah, I feel like this is like trying to force something that maybe they could just be chill with, right? I don't see that there's a reason for them making this. This seems like they're being jerks without a, without any good reason for it, other than just wanting to put pressure on him. And I don't really see that. Have they ever made the mistake of saying disrespectfully in a court document request? I have seen, I've seen self-reps pull that sort of crap off. I've seen that where I've seen like self-reps do that. So, and Uncivil is saying, Runkle, zoom in, please. Fair enough. All right. So Idaho Code 193501, which allows a court to dismiss a case for lack of speedy trial, is triggered if a defendant whose trial has not been postponed upon his application is not brought to trial within 6 months. So they're saying that he will have postponed it on his own application. So that's what their argument is here. So they're saying basically he won't be able to argue for a stay based on lack of speedy trial if he gets this postponement because he asked for a postponement. So I feel like this is a jerk move. I feel like this is a jerk move and is unnecessary, but they're doing it anyway because that's how they roll. All right, so they are referring to Lundquist. So that basically has its own facts, but the Idaho Supreme Court unambiguously rejected the notion that a defendant can partially but not fully waive his right to a speedy trial. Once the trial has been postponed, the 6-month period no longer applies. So that basically they're just trying to escape that. So that is what they're looking at. Kurt is saying, just came back from improv class, new teacher, so feeling it out. That is good. I need to go and do more running. I haven't yet got a gym membership, but I have been doing some running. I suck at it, but I need to go and do some more running because I'm trying not to suck too hard. So, and I see Luke Pearson saying, I know too much about specifically Idaho speedy law or trial law. Went down that rabbit hole with Valo. I mean, I kind of feel like the prosecution here is right in the sense of it looks like the law is on their side, but they also just feel like jerks for doing it. So Yeah. Although defendant, and this is where I think they're being a little more fair. Although defendant may have stated on the record that he did not intend to waive speedy trial, the practical effect of his motion for stay and the court's subsequent orders, the court has issued an order upon the defendant's application. The trial may be set outside of the 6-month speedy trial period. So they're saying, hey, he may have accidentally waived it without any. So, I mean, you could read this as we're trying to save him from himself. So now they say the parties, witnesses, and victims' family members are now in limbo. I don't put much weight on this argument overall. But because, I mean, they're always going to be in limbo, right? You never actually know when it's going to be. And they note here, but it is the state who carries the burden of proof in this case, an awesome endeavor requiring the subpoenaing, preparation, and coordination of numerous witnesses, many of whom require travel arrangements and other logistical considerations. These witnesses include loved ones and friends of the victims who are undoubtedly anxious for some degree of predictability as this case proceeds. The state is concerned that should the court continue to order such short-term stays, that these witnesses, not to mention the parties, will be left in limbo during a series of short tolling periods where short-term continuances could be invoked at the defendant's option. I mean, complain about that if it happens. So basically, that's what's happening. There's a lot of procedural crap, and the interesting stuff on that would be later down the road. Right, the interesting stuff on that would be later when the trial happens. I think there's a lot of like procedural stuff that is not as interesting, but people did ask me to cover it. The judge gave him 27 days to access the information. I am just shocked that, like, how did judge become a thing? How is that a thing? Like, I feel like they should have told him he has to have his name changed. So, all right. So there is some additional stuff that we can cover here. I'm just going to swoop again. I love those pups. They're such good pups. Uncivil saying nominative determinism. Fair, but I mean, I've dealt with a lot of clients who are named things like, Prince and aren't princes. So, all right. So let's talk about Rust. State of New Mexico, County of Santa Fe, First Judicial District Court versus Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Because why? They cut out Baldwin. So Baldwin's out. Gutierrez Reed is still on the hook. And so they did an amended information. I don't really want to cover the amended information because it's not the biggest thing. But let us talk about this because they are amending their motion to dismiss. So in their first motion to dismiss, they raised a number of areas of constitutional infirmity related to the underlying investigation and failures by the state to disclose exculpatory information. So basically, you guys suck at your investigation and you have failed to give us information that is relevant to us. They also argued that the continuing involvement in the prosecution by DA Carmack Altweiss, after appointment of Special Prosecutor Andy Reeb, was unauthorized and prejudicially tainted numerous aspects of the investigation and ongoing prosecution. So basically, they're saying that Altweiss lacked authority to continue to make decisions, to enter into plea deals, and to steer the prosecution. So that's more of a procedural aspect there. In its response, the state indicated that it was complying with its obligations under Brady v. Maryland and its progeny. The state further appeared to concede the jurisdictional issue regarding the district attorney, and it filed a new second amended information attempting to cure any prejudice. So they're trying to fix their problems. Following completion of briefing on the first motion, counsel was very recently copied on an email from the state's lead investigator. This email was sent by the investigator to DA Mary Carmack Altweiss and to Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey. This email is attached. and I see, what was it? With Lisk? I don't know who Lisk is, or I'm not parsing it out. But yeah. I don't like that they're having her be the scapegoat. Yeah, no, that's fair. And so, all right. So Exhibit A. In that email, the lead investigator, Mr. Schilling, indicates that he's been asked to do no further work on the case. He then acknowledges that the contents of the email are probably subject to IPRA, but states that he felt compelled to say anyway. So the current special prosecutor has directed that I conduct no further investigation into this matter. The conduct of the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office during and after their initial investigation is reprehensible and unprofessional to a degree I still have no words for. Not I or 200 more proficient investigators than I could clean up the mess delivered to your office in October 2022. So 1 year since the initial incident, inexcusable. Wow, that is quite the email. Quite the email. So following this then, the special prosecutor emailed and asked counsel for Mrs. Gutierrez-Reed to delete the email and apparently act as if it had never happened because it was inadvertently sent to undersigned counsel, attached as Exhibit B. Apparently, the special prosecutor misbelieved that counsel for Ms. Gutierrez-Reed would have no obligation to follow up. So, here's the thing. Sometimes as a lawyer, you might have ethical obligations to not do certain things. And so as an example that I will give you is so at one point I had a file and the prosecutor inadvertently sent me a document, and they called me up and they said, hey, they told my assistant, have Mr. Runkle call me before he does anything. And I did, because I trust this prosecutor. And he said, hey, we accidentally sent you an envelope. That envelope contains information, like stuff that is covered by informant privilege. And what informant privilege means is like where there's a confidential informer. They're not supposed to give that to me. And if I inadvertently come into possession of it, can't do anything with it. I would not be able to do anything with it. And so the prosecutor, who was a stand-up guy, basically said, hey, listen, your client is not the most involved here. I am willing to drop the charges against your client if I get that envelope back unopened. And so I called my client and said, hey, here's the deal. Charges are going away. I just have to return an envelope unopened. And he said, well, what about if we open the envelope? I said, here's the thing. I can't open the envelope. I just can't. I'm not opening the envelope either way. This is covered by informant privilege. It was inadvertently disclosed to me. I can't do anything with it. There are times and places where you may have an ethical obligation to delete information that gets sent to you by accident. The question is whether or not this is one of those times, because Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's counsel certainly says it's not. Counsel then emailed the special prosecutor back and asked why DA Carmack Altweiss was still involved in these matters. Special prosecutor Morrissey then emailed that the contracts were with the district attorney's office, but that Morrissey decided who was hired and fired. Following this exchange and media IPRA request of Mr. Schilling's emails, Mr. Schilling messaged counsel that this IPRA request didn't give him great confidence and that he was under an NDA, and apparently not to talk about either his being told to stop working, the reasons surrounding that, or anything about the case. That is concerning as yeah. I'm going to do a video just on this, because throwing a witness under NDA is concerning. At least where I am, you would not be able to put a witness under NDA because you don't have there's no property in a witness. So this whole exchange is beyond troubling on many fronts. First, it appears beyond doubt now that the state is attempting to sweep exculpatory information under the rug. It certainly does seem to be that way, right? And I said before that these two, Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed, might end up walking because they're screwing it up, right? And Hornless Unicorn has an excellent point here. Isn't this what happened in the Alex Jones case? Alex Jones's attorney sent the entire file instead of the censored file. Opposing counsel questioned, and Alex's attorney said they knew what they sent. Yes. And opposing counsel actually noted that they would have had an ethical obligation to not use the material if Alex Jones's lawyers had said that that was a problem. But instead they said, nope, we're fine, and ran out the time limit to object to it. And so that put it entirely into their category there. So, yeah. All right. What is it? So, Ms. Gutierrez-Reed has an expert witness regarding the severe problems in the investigation. The fact the state's lead investigator shares those views, or some of those views, is highly exculpatory. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. Second, and even more problematic, is the apparent existence of an NDA. Why would you put an NDA on this guy? It appears that the state has actually tried to suppress the statements and testimony of its now former lead investigator. This attempted suppression includes and encompasses what are obviously exculpatory statements by the investigator. This starts to feel like witness tampering to me. Counsel will have to interview Mr. Schilling, and he has long been listed as a witness for the preliminary hearing, and he indeed was the author of the statement of probable cause supporting the charges against Ms. Gutierrez-Reed. The fact that he wrote the charges in the manner that he did, but now professes great concern with the quality of the investigation, is a very important and exculpatory matter. In 30 years of practicing law, that's a line to drop, right? Both as a prosecutor and defense attorney, undersigned counsel has never seen an instance where a prosecutor attempted to silence a lead investigator with potentially exculpatory information through the use of an NDA. I've never heard of it either. I have never heard of that, at all. So there's currently a national movement to ban NDAs, especially in regards to cases involving sexual harassment or assault. We're past 2 hours. So that powerful political and social figures cannot escape scrutiny and quietly make things disappear, which I guess is an allegation here. Likewise, Ms. Gutierrez-Reed has a constitutional due process right to have exculpatory information timely disclosed to her and for her to pursue investigation of that information. This is supposed to be a search for the truth, not a game of hide the ball to obtain a conviction. Indeed, an NDA in a state context is also completely inconsistent with the Inspection of Public Records Act, and it likely violates that law. You're committing some crimes here, dudes, is what they're saying. Ms. Gutierrez-Reed now requests that this court order production of all communications and emails in and between Mr. Schilling, DA Carmack Altweiss, and the special prosecutors. Ooh, that's a big deal. To review in camera, which means that they're going to be reviewed privately, not in open court. This request is made because counsel has lost faith that the state will voluntarily comply with its Brady obligations. This request is also made because it appears that DA Carmack Altweiss is still having involvement in the case, despite this court's unequivocal prior order. This is interesting. He's been directed not to have any, work. And I love this. Knowing full well the probability that this email may be subject to IPRA, I'm still compelled to respectfully offer the following. The conduct of the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office during and after the investigation is reprehensible and unprofessional to agree I still have no words for. Not I or 200 more proficient investigators than I can/could clean up the mess delivered to your office in October 2022, 1 year since the initial incident. Inexcusable. It was an honor to be considered and selected to assist in this investigation, an investigation of the preventable, recklessly caused, and untimely death of Ms. Hutchins. Respectfully, Robert Schilling. They're saying it was inadvertent disclosure. Please delete it. Thank you. Wow. Okay. I am gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go over this one and just make a video just on this because this one is exceptional. But yeah, this is super sketchy. I have never seen anything like this, and I hope never to see anything like it again. All right. Now, it is late, so I'm going to wrap things up here. I got a whole bunch more stuff I got to do, but I'm going to cover some super chats. Last one's coming in there. We already covered this one. Crazy Cat Queen, I will definitely look you up there. Crazy Cat Queen, I love the comes now eggplant wave because it makes me giggle. Yes. Me too. Ask Jessica Norwegian. Read the letters out loud. F-U-N hex. I just can't. Hint, breakfast l'chaim. I'm going to have to try that later. F-U-N. Yeah. I'm too many drinks in to manage that. So, still need us to tell you how you really feel about Silverman. I feel that her lawsuit is fucking stupid until and unless she unless she actually can show it. So put up or shut up is kind of the thing there. I see Birds saying, did I get the video from Sioux Lookout? Somebody sent it to me. I haven't been able to look at it yet. I'm going to try to look over that one. I see with the poll, we got 70% at Elf, 19% at Witcher, and 10% at Lucius Malfoy. I also wanted to cover the motion to dismiss. I got people saying you got to cover that. So let me see if I can dig that up right away here. Where did that one go? All right. I'm going to have to switch over my audio a little bit here to make this work. Give me a second. There we go. That one's got a timestamp. Let's try to pull this up here. Just give me one moment. The joys of all of this. Doing stuff on the fly is tough. All right. So that. Whoop. And now I haven't watched this before, so hopefully it's not anything that's going to get me a strike. Let me just adjust my audio here. Testing. Can you guys hear that?
Not present.
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear that as well. Let's bring this up. Somebody's asking, do I know the surprise guest on Saturday? I do. I cannot tell you the surprise guest on Saturday because then it wouldn't be a surprise guest. There we go. We're going to Zora. All right. So let's have a look.
Mr. Jackson. Ms. Hicks.
Your Honor, defense has a Rule 20 motion. Would the court like us to address that first?
I see your Rule 20 and your motion to dismiss, or in the alternative, suppress statements for lack of corpus delicti.
Wow, the audio is
closely tied together. So I'm happy to hear argument on either or both together.
Apparently, the audio was filmed from like behind a fan. So yeah. Uncivil, tell me more about the toxic gossip train. Apparently it's on the tracks of misdirection. So yeah, I don't know why they put their mic like directly behind the fan, but they did. All right, now I haven't been watching this trial, so I'm trying to catch up here. That lawyer's got good hair. I like that.
Judge, pursuant to Rule 20, the court must enter a judgment of acquittal if there is not substantial evidence to support a conviction. The case law defines substantial evidence as that which reasonable persons could accept as sufficient to support a guilty verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. The offense is asking for this court to enter a judgment of acquittal based on three grounds.
So basically they're saying there is not enough evidence here to there's not enough evidence for this to even go to a jury. Like the evidence is so garbage that that it shouldn't go to a jury. Uncivil. I don't think she's single. I think she's got kids, and you're also too old for her. The people who are in her age bracket are, I think, her kids. Crazy Cat Queen is saying, damn, they let you listen to headphones in court these days. I'm pretty sure that's an assistive listening device so that he can hear what's happening. I think he's hard of hearing is what that means.
The first is that there's been a general failure to present substantial evidence to support a conviction. The second is that there's been a failure that the state can establish jurisdiction. And finally, a motion to dismiss based on the doctrine of corpus delicti.
No jurisdiction is an interesting one. They can't prove the location it happened.
Starting with the first point, the state has not presented any substantial evidence that Alyssa is deceased and that Mike caused her death. The state's case rests entirely on speculation, character evidence, and rumors. This entire trial...
Being unable to prove that the victim in a murder is dead is a hell of a thing. Yeah.
Trial has been about Alyssa and Mike's relationship, what kind of teenager Alyssa was, whether they had an acrimonious relationship, whether Mike was a bad parent or if he was paranoid. There has not been a shred of physical evidence in this case. No body, no crime scene, no blood spatter, no body parts found in the house. No.
Yeah, often, like, people are saying often, like, hey, listen, you know, we didn't find a body, but what you'll see in a lot of cases where there's like no body is it's like, but we did find like 12 liters of blood, and losing that much blood is inconsistent with still being alive because you normally only have about 10 liters in you. So, you know, it is possible to get no convictions with no body, but you do need to have some indication that the person was actually dead, right? And so, you know, that can be a murder weapon. That can be, you know, I've seen things where it's like, hey, we found a bullet in the wall that had blood there. So, and Nicholas, apparently, Nicholas Starro, who's watching this live, so that's amazing.
Murder weapon. No evidence in the houses or in the car to suggest that a murder took place.
No, I'm being told it's more like 3 to 5 liters.
The fact that Mike's home was searched 7 years after Alyssa's disappearance has everything to do with the Phoenix Police Department's failure to investigate this case. Mike was the one who pushed the police to take a more aggressive approach to find his daughter. He did his own investigation. He worked to draw attention to his daughter's disappearance. Now, the state points to Mike's relationship with the Phoenix Police Department as evidence of his guilt. He was either too involved or not involved enough in the police investigation.
Yeah, you can't win on that.
The state cannot use Mike's involvement with this investigation or lack of involvement as a sword and a shield.
I'd agree with that.
Now, although defense does not have to prove innocence, there is sufficient evidence to show that Alyssa ran away. There was testimony from Alyssa's family and friends who described her as a free spirit, someone who was impulsive, stubborn.
I mean, I don't
Mike
get that
was strict
to
and
run away on
controlling
that,
at
but I
times,
get it's a possibility.
And Alyssa did not do well with rules. Alyssa had a bank account that was set up by her father, and there's no record of at least 5 months of her paychecks being deposited into that account. Alyssa had a fight with her boyfriend and cheated on him.
So she could have been saving up paychecks to make a break for it, right? She's saving up money to make an escape. That makes sense.
Right before she went missing. There was, of course, the call with Aunt Lynette that happened at least 6 weeks before Alyssa's disappearance, where she said, "You can always come see me." Finally, we have the runaway note, and then the call from California a week later.
A runaway note and a call from California.
The
seems
state
like
has not
a
presented
hint.
any evidence that Mike had the mens rea that's required for a conviction of second-degree murder. The state must prove either 1, that Mike intentionally caused the death of another person, 2, that he caused the death of another person by conduct which he knew would cause death or serious physical injury, or 3, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to human life, he recklessly engaged in conduct that created a grave risk of death and thereby caused the death of another person.
Makes sense.
The
Zora
risk
agrees.
must be such that
See?
disregarding it was a gross deviation from what a reasonable person in the defendant's situation would have done.
But
We
it sounds
sat
like-
through 5 days of trial, and the state has not presented any evidence to prove that Mike acted intentionally or recklessly to cause the death in this case. There's no confession, no evidence of a plan, and no evidence of how a death occurred. On to defense's second request for dismissal under failure to establish jurisdiction. There's no evidence to show that Mike committed second-degree murder in Maricopa County. No crime scene was physically located in Maricopa County. No witnesses to a crime in Maricopa County.
So this point on jurisdiction is basically saying, even if you think he killed her, they haven't proven where he killed her. And if he killed her in the wrong place, then the court doesn't actually have jurisdiction to deal with it. The court, like, you can't just bring somebody into any court. You got to bring them into the right court. And they're saying, prove it. You know, you got to establish where this would have been, not just that it was somewhere, maybe. Yeah.
No murder weapon located in Maricopa County. And no body found in Maricopa County. Finally, defense asked this court to enter a judgment of acquittal based off of the doctrine of corpus delicti. Corpus delicti is intended.
I just want to say, she is really clear. She's like articulating this really well. I like this lawyer. She's not rambling. She's not beating around the bush. She's just laying out her arguments. I actually think this is pretty good advocacy. Maybe she might have some cases, but her points are clear. What she's arguing is clear. I like this.
To safeguard against erroneous convictions. Arizona courts have recognized that jurors often take confessions or inculpatory statements at face value. And to be clear, Mike has not confessed. However, the state has elicited several statements during trial which it believes demonstrate consciousness of guilt. For example, the union killed Alyssa, or come to my deathbed. The corpus delicti doctrine requires
I don't know what
that
those
the
statements
court find,
mean, but they don't sound terribly
separate
bad.
and apart from Mr. Attorney's statements, that the state has presented direct or circumstantial evidence that establishes a reasonable inference that Alyssa is dead and that her death resulted from Mr. Attorney's conduct rather than by death, suicide, accident, or somebody else's criminal conduct.
She could be alive, or she
For the
could have died
reasons
any
mentioned
way, any
previously,
other way.
the state has failed to do that. And if the state has failed to submit adequate proof of the corpus delicti before it rests, the court should direct an acquittal. Judge, for these reasons, we are asking the court to enter a judgment of acquittal at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
I want to see the
State's
response. Ooh. All right. Now, I am biased towards his hair, but let's see how he's going to deal with this. Okay, he's nervous. He's just futzing around.
Your Honor,
He's
we would
stalling
submit
here.
that the law does not envision a person who murders someone.
Get your hand off the goddamn mic. All right, I don't like this guy anymore. Get your hand off the mic. Because, yeah.
Simply because they have disposed of the body where it cannot be found.
And if you could prove that he disposed of the body, then you'd be winning right now. right? If you had disposed of the body, then, like, if you could prove that he disposed of the body, like, you know, let's say you never find any blood, you never find any body parts, but you see that there's a video of this guy, you know, feeding a rolled up carpet into an incinerator. You can say, hey, that's evidence. That's where the body went. Instead here, they're just this is just theory.
Simply because they have managed to commit this crime without leaving physical evidence.
But
And
can
there
you
is
show that?
Substantial evidence that exists.
I mean, we acquit people because there's no evidence all the time, right? Like, hey, just because he committed the crime and there's no evidence doesn't mean we have to acquit the guy. Yes, it does. That's how the courts work. That is what we do here, sir.
To escape being held accountable. That is not what the law envisions.
The law envisions that you have to fucking prove it, dude.
First of all, and I'm
Prove
really
it.
not sure which order to take this.
Prove it.
Um,
Prove it now.
I'll start with the Rule 20 and talk about the corpus delicti issue afterwards. So I'm going to read some quotes from some cases that you.
Yeah, now apparently the disappearance was like in 2007. So maybe he was able to move. But if he was in a wheelchair at the time, then this whole argument about like he just smuggled his body away is like, what?
The relevant question in a Rule 20 motion for judgment of acquittal, and I don't have these memorized, so I'm going to look at my screen and read. After viewing the evidence in a light most favorable to the prosecution, any rational trier of fact could have found the essential elements of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. State versus Parker, 231, Arizona 391. State versus West, 226, Arizona 559. You could, all of us here who work in this area, I could list probably another 50 or 60 cases like that.
Okay, so you got the case law, you got the
Furthermore,
definition.
if reasonable
Great.
minds can differ on the inferences to be drawn from the evidence, a trial court has
Wait. Let's back up. I missed that because I was yammering.
versus Parker, 231, Arizona 391. State versus West, 226, Arizona 559. You could, all of us here who work in this area, I could list probably another 50 or 60 cases like that. Furthermore, if reasonable minds can differ on the inferences to be drawn from the evidence, a trial court has no.
You get Rick Hogue out of your mouth. That's Rick's line. And you're using it for evil and stupid. That's Rick Hogue's line. Yeah, use Rick's line for good, not evil, and not for dumb.
Discretion to enter a judgment of acquittal and must submit the case to the jury. So in this phase of my response, I'm going to talk about statements the defendant has made. Because absent the corpus rule, and I don't agree with their position on it, those statements can be utilized for the purposes of Rule 20. So we have a 17-year-old girl who had family and friends. She had a cell phone. She had her mother's jewelry, which was important to her. She had makeup, which was apparently important to her, according to the testimony.
Okay, so she left that stuff behind.
She had a home. She was unhappy with the defendant. She had family and friends that she could have gone to live with. She had family and friends that, based on history It is
Cool, but you don't know what happened. Like you're saying, hey, I think it's unlikely she ran away, but do you know? Do you like have some details? Because it's not the defense's job to not like to prove it didn't happen. It's your job to prove it did.
circumstantially, you can infer she would have contacted those people if she were alive. You could go to court.
It's a huge ask
You
from the
could
judge.
go to another building here and have her declared dead because she's been gone for 22 years.
Okay. But that doesn't mean you can convict this guy.
The last person to see her alive was the defendant. He picked her up early from school, he claimed, because he needed to discuss her plans for the summer. Discuss her plans for the summer with a young lady who lived with him. He could have discussed those plans the night before, the next day, the day after, the day after that.
So? Like, hey, he wanted to do a thing at a particular time and place, but he could have done it at another time. So?
There was absolutely no reason to pick her up from school early unless he had an intention.
So maybe he throws her out of the house. Maybe he
life,
says, don't come back.
which was apparent from that phone conversation he had with his natural son, Michael, Seth Turney. She was a fucking bitch, he said. She was a pain in his side. He could not take it any longer. My words. Inference could be drawn from the words that he spoke.
Sure, why don't we just like draw the rest of the owl is what you're telling
A
us.
17-year-old girl does not leave home without her cell phone. She does not leave home with no intention of returning without taking the things that were important to her. She does not leave a note saying she's running away and climb out a window, not to be seen on a video from that day. A video the defendant claimed that he had watched and there was nothing on it, and then he destroyed it. He didn't keep it for someone else to look at.
Okay.
He wanted people to believe that she would write a note to leave with whatever it was she took with her and climb out a window and not go through the door that she always used, so to be seen on a video surveillance. A video surveillance that, if you remember the testimony from Sarah, he turned it on when he left the house, when he wasn't there. But again, he said, I watched it. She wasn't on it. That's just not possible.
But didn't they fail to
got rid of
proceed until like
He claimed
2007?
there was a phone call from California. Wasn't recorded. When he had calls recorded for decades, he got rid of it. If there was one. We know there was a call.
Just pro tip, it sounds like he talked to the cops, and talking to the cops was not fantastic to it, for his life. Because all of this is stuff that would have come from him talking to the cops, which, yeah.
But no recording of that call.
Why would she bring her cell phone if she doesn't want to be tracked by this guy? Like, oh, hey, she's running away and she didn't bring her tracking device.
When you combine the nature of their relationship, how he denigrated her over the years, how he basically said to his older son, I can't stand any more of this fucking bitch. He takes her from school when there was no reason. She had a job.
There's lots of people I don't like. That doesn't mean that,
work
that I
school
killed
was over
any of them.
At Jack in the Box.
Or even many of them.
We don't have to prove how he killed her.
No, but
We
you
don't
have to prove that.
whether he strangled her, whether he beat her, whether he struck her
You have to prove that he killed her, and also that he killed her within the jurisdiction of the court. So, how are you going to get to that particular bridge there, Mr. Hare? You do not deserve the hair. Turn your hair in.
All we have to prove is that he killed her. And there is circumstantial evidence that he did. All of this, he was a former deputy sheriff. So what they want you to believe, Your Honor, is that and the jury believe, is that all these efforts he made over the years was because of a genuine desire to find her. No, it was to create this image of a father who wants to find the daughter that he's murdered.
So you look for them,
whatever he did,
you're
her,
guilty.
He suspects they're not going to find her body. They're not going to hear from her because he knows that she's dead. Now let me talk about the corpus rule.
Maybe you should cover jurisdiction while you're at it.
They filed their motion last night. I hadn't had a chance to do a written response. So if you'll give me a little latitude here.
No, I want to hear you cover jurisdiction because I think you're
cite some,
on that.
From a case, State versus Derek Gerlaw, 134 Arizona 164. Even without, it's on the issue of the corpus delicti rule. Even without this evidence, however, we believe the state had established the corpus delicti. The purpose, and I'm skipping here around, so if you want to go read the case and make sure this is what it says, feel free to do so. Defense can as well. What I'm getting to here is the history of this rule and why. What's the purpose of it? And remember, Ms. Hicks stood up here and said to you, the defendant has never confessed. The defendant has never admitted his guilt. The purpose of the corpus delicti rule is to prevent erroneous convictions based solely on untrue confessions. She just stood up here and said her client didn't confess. So there's no, the rule doesn't need to protect an untrue confession.
Now get to jurisdiction.
In that Gerlaw decision, they cited Perkins and Boyce on criminal law, a Harvard Law Review article, which I would never cite, but they did. The rationale, but this language is particularly critical here in this analysis, Your Honor, because we have to understand the purpose of this rule. The rationale for the corpus delicti rule was a realization that confessions may be untrustworthy because of involuntariness due to improper police conduct or unreliability due to the mental instability of the accused. That's not.
So the corpus delicti rule is that they have to basically prove that a crime happened before they can argue that you did it. So they have to show that the actual offense was a real thing that occurred. And the idea is that there were situations where people would confess to things and they couldn't prove that there's a crime. So let's say I walk into a police station and I say, hey, I killed, Bob Samuelson. And the police investigate and they can't ever actually find that a Bob Samuelson existed. So they can't figure out who it was I supposedly killed, and they can't find any trace of a murder or anything like that. They could probably still get a conviction based on that confession, except for this rule, because it says you can't even try for the conviction unless you've got that. So in murder cases, proving that the person is dead is required, which might be done in all sorts of ways. Like, hey, you might actually literally have the dead body, or you might have a portion of the dead body that is incompatible with life, like here is their heart on a shelf. It is DNA matched to them, or here is their head in a bag, like those kinds of things. Or here is a giant, here's a wood chipper that is full of their DNA, those kinds of things, right? Enough to establish all of this. But you can't just say, like, yeah, this guy, I don't think actually has the evidence he's hoping for here. So, you got suspicious circumstances, but you don't actually know she's dead.
Not even their position here. Their position is there hasn't been any police misconduct that led to an untrue confession. In the Gerlach
But it's not
case,
just for
Your Honor,
confessions. It's for bad
that
circumstances
defendant
and so
confessed
forth.
to killing the victim in that case, but it wasn't recorded. It was 1980. They didn't record his confession. So you had a detective testifying, this is what he told me. So the issue was there evidence independent of that confession to corroborate it?
See, her argument was good. His lack of argument is even better for the defense, because this is the point where he should be banging the table and being able to say, this is ridiculous. This is such complete horsepucky. Like this is offensive. This is whatever. And instead, he is just struggling, right? He is just trying so hard on this. And he's not finding an argument here at all.
Well, that's the purpose of the rule. But it doesn't serve a purpose in this case.
It does, though, to stop you
apply
from doing this.
In our factual situation. Therefore, any confession, admission, which they claim doesn't exist, any statement that this defendant made can be utilized to prove this case.
Get a haircut and get a real job.
Thank you, Mr. Imbordino. Ms. Hicks, I will give you the last word.
Did you hear him address jurisdiction? Like the question of, did she die anywhere that the court has authority over? Because I didn't. I didn't. So, yeah.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Somebody's saying, is he biased towards defense for giving them the last word? No. Defense would normally get the last. Like, you apply, reply, response. That's sort of the, that's the ordinary course of this. I can see the defense just standing up and saying, we don't need to address anything he said, Your Honor. But they're gonna talk. I see somebody saying that bailiff is sleeping. Does this guy look dangerous to you at this point?
Judge, turning first to the corpus issue, the case law says that that the term confession can be used interchangeably from statements that are made throughout the case. So we would be requesting not just, clearly there's been no confession here, but any statements that are possibly inculpatory to be suppressed. And that's based off of State v. Jones, 198 Eras 18. Judge, Mr. Imbordino stated that circumstantial evidence, that the state has presented enough circumstantial evidence that Mr. Attorney has committed murder. But the only circumstantial evidence that they've presented during this trial is evidence of his character, not of a crime that's been committed. He said, he was the last person to see Alyssa, but we don't know that. We don't know who the last person was to see Alyssa. And that's, obviously it's horrible that there is a young woman who is missing, but it's not Mr. Attorney who's responsible. Finally, Mr. Imbordino mentioned that with Rule 20, the evidence must be viewed in a light most favorable to the prosecution. And while that is true, the evidence must be more than just a scintilla of evidence, which is all that the state has presented here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, short, sweet, not. Don't belabor it.
I
Don't
have
make it look.
considered the issues.
The thing is that is exactly what you want to do here. Short, sweet. Don't belabor it. Don't make it look like he's got an argument, because he doesn't. So like, dunk on it if you have to, but you don't want to turn it into something when it isn't by looking like you think it matters. So yeah.
Raised by the defense and the state's responses to those. Taking the corpus issue first, the court has to consider the evidence that is before this jury and exclude from that consideration the defendant's statements. While there are cases that do suggest that the corpus rule is limited to confessions, Ms. Hicks is right. There are other cases that use the term statements. So when looking at this case without the defendant's statements, the court has to make two findings. Is there a reasonable inference that Alyssa is dead, or could the jury make a reasonable inference that Alyssa is dead? And the second question is does the court or the finder of fact have the ability to make a reasonable inference that Alyssa's death resulted from the defendant's conduct? The court has considered the evidence presented without the defendant's statements. The court finds that there is a reasonable inference that Alyssa is dead. I find that this court could make that reasonable inference, and that the jury could make that reasonable inference.
Okay.
The second question is there a reasonable inference that Alyssa's death resulted from the defendant's conduct? There is really no testimony about the defendant's conduct in relation to Alyssa's death.
Yeah, just his dislike of her, which is
the
different.
Defendant raised Alyssa, and the court is not here to decide if his parenting style was appropriate or inappropriate.
If I'm the prosecution at this point, I am going, oh, crap.
The court's not even deciding if the defendant killed Alyssa or not. The court is deciding whether or not a reasonable inference from the evidence that has been put before the jury, excluding his statements, shows that a reasonable inference can be made that the defendant caused or the defendant engaged in conduct that resulted in Alyssa's death. The court is unable to make that finding. It is ordered granting the defendant's motion to dismiss based on the corpus delicti rule. The second question is whether or not.
We'll just go back to that little moment of his face there.
That the defendant caused.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or the defendant engaged in conduct that resulted in Alyssa's death. The court is unable to make that finding. It is ordered granting the defendant's motion to dismiss based
So he
on
looks
the
over,
corpus
gives her the
delicti
nod.
rule. The second question is.
So that was her making sure he understood. And also, I think her making sure he doesn't react. Like, just chill, right? Just chill. So, yeah. I think that she's trying to keep him from having too much of a response there.
Whether or not substantial evidence exists to warrant a conviction. In some ways, I could just skip this and say the issue is moot because of my ruling on the corpus issue, but for purposes of the record, I'll make the finding anyways. There is evidence in the case. I am not here to suggest that the state has put forth no evidence. There is evidence. The court has to determine whether or not there is substantial evidence. And the evidence doesn't have to be direct evidence. It can be circumstantial evidence. There is circumstantial evidence in the case. The question then becomes, is it substantial that would warrant a conviction for second-degree murder? The court has considered the evidence and finds that substantial evidence does not exist to warrant a conviction. It's ordered granting defendant's motion for a Rule 20 judgment of acquittal.
Mm-hmm.
I will order the defendant released as to these charges only. Mr. Attorney, you're going to be signing for a copy of your release. I'll bring the jury back in.
He didn't understand what was going on. She tried to clarify that. He did not understand that that this just was a win.
And just let them know that their jury service is over. Before we do that, anything for the record from the state? Anything for the record from the defense? All right, Angela, you can bring the jury.
So basically, at the end of all of that, the judge says, hey, you can't even get close enough. The reason why this procedure exists is because juries suck. And jury, like, here's the thing. I'm just doing a little hit of hot sauce here. So what just happened? The judge just granted the defense's motion to throw out the charges. So this guy who was facing a charge of murder, the judge has thrown that out. He's acquitted. He's walking out of here. Well, no, he's wheeling out of here because it doesn't look like he's walking these days. But he's wheeling out of here a free man because the state didn't have enough evidence to prove it. They basically said this is basically no reasonable jury could convict this guy. Why does this process exist? Well, because we know juries suck. And so the jury might actually be willing to convict him right now, notwithstanding all of this. And so the judge is just like, no, we are just straight up. We're just, we're not letting them have that choice. No, I don't think they can retry him. He had jeopardy at this stage. They don't get another shot here. So how old is the defendant? Old as trees. So yeah, very, very old, it looks like. Now somebody asked, did they address the jurisdiction argument? I don't think they did. And that's kind of disappointing from my end because I would have liked to have seen that. But yeah, I think that the judge said there's enough evidence to infer that she might be dead, but not to infer that he killed her. And therefore it doesn't really matter where he didn't kill her. Right? That's kind of why they wouldn't address that one. I actually thought the jurisdiction argument also had them on the ropes because, what evidence do you have on that? They didn't even want to address it. This is a good question here. I wonder what else he's being held on because the judge said being released for this case only. Judge doesn't know, right? And so I've had situations where the judge is like, hey, sir, you're being released. And I'm like, whoa, no, he's not, judge. Because I had a guy who beat a charge and he was bail denied on a charge that was basically theft from a liquor store, right? Not the biggest deal, but this guy had a lengthy record. And so we beat the charge because the video showed it wasn't him. like showed that it wasn't him. It was a different dude. So the judge is like, sir, you are free to go. And I'm like, whoa, no, he's not. Because he's also in jail on a robbery that he probably will get convicted on. So, you don't want the judge to tell the client, hey, you're getting released. The judge doesn't know. He's saying you're being released on these charges only. There might be other charges, or there might be nothing. So, and Michael has been in jail since 2021 because he couldn't afford bail. And look at him. I mean, that's going to be hard time in jail, right? That's going to be really hard time. It's tough being in jail when you're in a wheelchair. We got MLS Law Show in the chat. Hey, Nick. Hey, MLS Law Show. And so he spent 2 years in jail for an acquittal. It sucks. And I mean, I don't think that this guy's a flight risk. Looking at him, I don't think he can run that fast. Just, I also don't think he's gonna like be committing any murders. I feel like I could take him at the end of the day. So, yeah, and Crazy Cat Queen noting at that age, 2 years is a lot of life. How much time has he got left? Let's say he dies in 6 months. Like, what did that 2 years cost him? Everything in that time. I see. Does he get something for being falsely in jail? No, he's not going to get anything. So. Traveling Science Man, I do love 7 Days to Die, but I'm awful at it multiplayer because then I can't pause. And I have attention deficit. I'm always doing 7 different things.
Versus attorney. Let the record show the presence of counsel and the defendant and the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, during the break, I had to make some legal rulings.
This is why I hate trial coverage where we can't see the jury, because I want to see I so want to see the jury's reaction. Like, what is the jury thinking when they hear that this case is being tossed?
And as a result of my rulings, the trial is now over. You are now discharged as jurors, and the admonition is now lifted. You can talk.
The jury's like, we sat through how much trial for you to just send us home, you mother. Jury's pissed, I can tell you that, because the jury at this stage wanted to do the deliberations. They wanted to do the deciding. They wanted to give a verdict, and now they've sat through all this trial and they're being told, yeah, now you can go F yourself, leave. That's gonna suck for them.
Talk to anybody that you want to talk to about the case. But
why didn't they throw it out earlier? Because you can't make this application until all the evidence is in, because it's based on all the evidence. So yeah,
you don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to. I will come back to the jury room in a moment to thank you in person for your service. Sometimes the attorneys like to come back and talk to the jurors after a trial. If you want to stay and talk to them, you're welcome to do so. But if you want to just gather your things and go, you're welcome to do that as well. On behalf of the court and the parties, thank you so much for giving us your time for this trial. It was important and meaningful. And the court and the parties and the community recognize that our criminal justice system cannot function without people who are willing to do what you have done.
Absolutely.
Which is give of your time and attention for purposes of sitting and listening to evidence in a case. So
I would say that sitting in the jury is a great gift, but
please take everything with you into the jury room. Again, I'll come.
Oh, look at his face. He's having a hard time just, dealing with it there. And then this is where Rittenhouse should have been decided. I don't disagree. I actually think that the judge in that case wussed out.
Back in just a moment, and thank you in person. Jury is now excused.
He's got that little bit of a smile. The relief won't have hit him yet. So it won't have hit him quite yet. I can tell you that after dealing with some serious charges, and not like, murder where the guy's like going to be facing life in prison, but, I'm thinking like of a particular trial where a guy was looking at about little under a decade if he was convicted, right? So my guess was basically 8 to 9 years if he was
Let the record
convicted
show
at
the
the end of
presence
it.
Counsel and defendant, jury's not present. Anything for the record from the state? Does the state want to talk to the jury? Anything for the record from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Does the defense want to talk to the jury?
I do if they want to. I don't. Not
Okay.
something I seek out, but if they want to, I will.
If you just stay here, I'll have Angela come and get you if and when the jury is ready, or she'll let you know that they're not interested. Angela is going to come back in and have defendant sign for a copy of his release, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. So that is a hell of a thing. But yeah, I was saying that, a guy who's looking at about 8-9 years if he was convicted. Oh, and Zora, thank you for your service. Your time here was meaningful. You are a good dog, but you can go away. There you go. So he gets acquitted, and the judge is like, hey, you're free to go. And he's feeling pretty good, but he gets home and he called me about like 6 or 7 times that night because he just couldn't understand, like, does this mean I'm like absolutely like, are they going to come back and charge me? It's like, no, you're good to go. So it's a hard thing for people to process when they've been in the system for that time. I want to commend this judge because I can say the easy thing for the judge to do is not grant this motion. It's the easy course, and so many judges take it. So many judges just are like, yeah, no big deal. We'll just let this go to the jury. And some of those people get convicted. It takes some serious courage on the part of the judge to say, I'm throwing this out. I really think that was fantastic. I thought the defense lawyer did a great job. That was spectacular. Prosecutor's probably a good lawyer too. I just want to say that too. I think that his performance there is because he just didn't have the case, and he's trying to save this case, or at least take it to a jury. And, he just didn't have the arguments. So I think that's really what was going on there, is he didn't have the arguments and he's trying to save it. So, and I see Half Iris saying should have happened for Zachariah. Yeah, I'm catching up on that one because I want to watch the full trial as I sort of play catch up on it. But I agree so far from what I've seen. Judge Schroeder is not my favorite judge. I'll say that. So, where you get the judge who's just like, we'll let the jury decide, then it's not my fault. So, yeah. It's a cowardly approach from judges, and it happens all the time. All the time. So, what is it? Yeah, I see in those judges' defense, they can always throw out after the verdict too, but having a jury rather than a judge find not guilty does make the verdict more solid in the public eye. Yeah, but they weren't going to throw it out after the verdict either. So let's not pretend that they were suddenly going to find a spine after a guilty finding. So, yeah. All right. So that's... I think that's our show for today. Thank you very much. I'm going to sort of cover some super chats and some other things here. So we'll, we will cover those here. Somebody says, do I think she's missing? I don't know. I don't know if she's alive and, moved to Switzerland or something, or if she is, I just don't know, right? It's just straight up. She could be wherever. So, Uncivil Law, tell me more about the toxic gossip train. You can watch the video. It's terrible. She should maybe be in jail. Ham and eggs. Nice. Fair enough. Nicholas Starro, thank you very much for the YouTube membership. I got to return the favor on that one. Crazy Cat Queen, I thought blood in large amount is considered a body part, like hand or foot. Pretty sure there's precedent, but I can't remember what state case. Enough blood, they can find that is proof of death, right? Because if you find enough blood that there is not that there's no possibility of life, then that tells you that there's a dead person, right? So, yeah, there's all sorts of ways to prove it. You just got to actually prove it, right? It's so. Just watch the Adam McIntyre reaction video to your video. You have nothing to worry about, Ian. He was impressed with your analysis. Well, that is reassuring because I'm still nervous. Nicholas Starro's trial watch. Michael has been in jail since 2021 because he couldn't afford bail. That is brutal. So I hate to hear it, but I'm glad you told me anyway, just so I know. Tom Horton, there's a homicide case where I live where a conviction was secured with no body, very little physical evidence, and suspicious acts of the husband. Cases like that can be won if evidence is there. That's the thing. You need to have the evidence. So if you've got, as an example, let's say you have a shovel with blood on the edge of the shovel, right? That might say, hey, this would have happened burying the person. Let's say you've got, there's all sorts of possibilities, right? Strands of hair in a carpet might be enough, right? So, yeah. There's all sorts of possibilities there, but yeah. Donnie NIS, Runkle, are you a Ramstein listener? Used to be. I haven't in a while, but I guess I could fire it up. Would you check up on foreign cases? I haven't been following the Ramstein thing, but I could if people are interested. So let me know if that's something that that is of interest, and we can have a look. All right. I'm going to go for a run, and then we'll, then I got another video to record and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to let you guys go. We will see you guys next Monday. I might be on Friday Night Frenzy. I don't know. We'll have to see on schedule. I'll just have to figure that out. Nick Cressman, thank you very much for the new membership there. And so I'm going to roll the outro and see you guys next time. And fire.